Chapter 943. 3 days later, Zhu Ming and Jin Xiaotang got married. Most of the officials in the imperial court went to congratulate them, including Chief Qin Lian, Minister of War Wei Chou, Feng Jixing, Zhuang Yan, and others. Lin Muyu personally presided over the wedding. This was the first time in her life, and the one she married was Jin Xiaotang, whom she regarded as her younger sister. The marriage customs in Great Qin were different from those in modern times. There was no red carpet or church ceremony, only traditional marriage customs. Jin Xiaotang, who was dressed up as a bride, looked extremely beautiful. Chu Yao and Tang Xiaoxi were jealous. Which woman didn't want to marry their beloved one day? Tang Xiaoxi looked up and saw that her beloved was presiding over the wedding. She was so heartless that she was grinning from ear to ear. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but smile. Perhaps this was life, the life she had always yearned for. The ceremony is done. Lin Muyu waved her hand and walked up to Jin Xiaotang. She grabbed her little hand and stuffed a piece of imperial edict into her hand. "Here, this is a gift from me to you," she said. Jin Xiaotang was stunned. She opened it and saw that it was an imperial edict about Zhu Ming's promotion to the assistant minister of the Ministry of War. Since Lin Muyu asked him to withdraw from the parliament, there must be other compensations. However, the Zhu family didn't expect that the compensation would be so generous. The assistant minister of the Ministry of War was much more important than Zhu Tong's position as the assistant minister of the Ministry of Revenue. After all, military power was the way of the king. Zhu Ming looked at Lin Muyu excitedly and said, "Lin General, why, are you not willing to serve the nation?" "I am willing." Zhu Ming knelt on one knee. "I will risk my life for you." "Ah, that's good. Treat Xiaotang well in the future. If you betray her..." Lin Muyu looked at Zhu Tong and the others with a smile and said, "I will exterminate your entire family." Chu Yao curled her lips. "Hey, don't say such things on such an occasion." Zhu Tong and the rest broke out in cold sweat. Everyone knew that Lin Muyu's words were absolutely not a joke. Lin Muyu then looked at Jin Xiaotang and said, "Xiang, from now on, you're someone else's daughter-in-law. Remember to be filial to your elders and don't throw a tantrum. If you've suffered any grievances, endure it if you can. If you can't, come to me and complain, understand?" Jin Xiaoying cupped her hands and said, "Thank you, older brother. However, older brother can rest assured. Although Xiaotang will be staying in the assistant minister's residence in the future, I will be working for the Zine Flower Merchant Guild during the day. Xiaotang knows this very well. Home belongs to home, and the Zine Flower Merchant Guild belongs to the Zine Flower Merchant Guild." Then I'm relieved," Lin Muyu said happily. She was really relieved. If Jin Xiaotang didn't know what to do, the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce would become her dowry. In that case, Lin Muyu and Qin Yin would suffer a great loss, and the biggest winner would be Zhu Ming. In fact, from a practical point of view, Lin Muyu hoped that Jin Xiaotang would never marry and run the Chamber of Commerce well. But from a moral point of view, Lin Muyu hoped that Jin Xiaotang could have a husband, so that she wouldn't have to wander alone in Jianghu when her family was so big, which was unfair to her. The guests took their seats, and a group of officials congratulated Lin Muyu one after another. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, was drinking cup after cup of wine. Marrying his younger sister was not a happy event in life. As her brother, he always felt that it was best for his younger sister to stay by his side. That way, he could always protect her. Once she got married, he would not be able to control many things anymore. Unfortunately, Jin Xiaotang already had someone she liked, so Lin Muyu could not always tie her down. On this night, Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing were both drunk, dead drunk. Late at night, Chu Yao and Tang Xiaoxi both returned, leaving only Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Qin Yan. The war horses were handed to the guards, and the guards dispersed. The three people walked on the quiet heaven-span street. The three kings who once ruled the world were now like three drunkards in dire straits, with nowhere else to rely on. "Let's go outside the city and find a mountain top to blast it. How about it?" Feng Jixing suggested. This suggestion of his was too violent, but Lin Muyu and Qin Yan each had a belly full of anger. They nodded together and said, "Good idea, let's go now." "Go." 3 streams of light flew past, and the 3 of them soared into the sky, heading straight for the south of the city. The nearest mountain top was a mountain 10 miles south of the city. There was no one living there, and the nearest hunters were several miles away. Flattening the mountain top would not harm the innocent. Lin Muyu landed on the grass at the foot of the mountain. She looked at the starlight with her drunken eyes and said with a smile, "Just like that? Or blast once and say a word. That's more satisfying?" Feng Jixing laughed and said, "This suggestion isn't bad either. Blast once and scold once." "Who's first?" Lin Muyu asked. Feng Jixing said, "I'll do it." "Alright." Feng Jixing raised his 2 sabers, and his figure rose up majestically. The purple electric raging flame wolf martial soul came out of his body, and divine power circulated. A mighty dimensional storm blasted towards the mountain top. With a loud bang, the mountain peak that was close to 10 meters tall instantly turned into dust. At the same time, Feng Jixing roared angrily, "Congress, this bunch of bastards, go and die." Lin Muyu laughed loudly, "I'll do it, I'll do it." He did not use the Xianyuan sword. He waved his fists and struck the mountain range with one glorious chaos. With a bang, the earth quaked and the mountain swayed. The mountain rapidly cracked open, and at the same time, the suffocating feeling in his chest seemed to lessen significantly. He said loudly, "Zhuang Yan, this bastard, I really want to blast his head into smithereens like this mountain." He rapidly landed on the ground and patted Qin Yan's shoulder. "Ah Yan, it's your turn." Qin Yan pulled out his sword and flew up. The dragon scale armor martial soul emitted a resplendent light that lingered around his body, and he slashed his sword down towards the mountain top. His divine power was vast and mighty, and it almost sliced off the entire mountain top. During this period of time, Qin Yan was the most depressed, and his resentment was also the heaviest. What he cursed out wasn't a single sentence, but a series of words. "I don't know why Father wants to be the Congress chief. He clearly knows that the Congress is only going against His Highness, yet he still wants to be the chief. I, Qin Yan, admit that my ability is inferior to my 2 elder brothers, but I'm also not willing to be a sycophant. The way everyone looks at me is different now. I, this Divine Hall's Grand Deacon, is simply like a joke." Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing raised their heads to look at Qin Yan, who was slowly descending, and said, "Ah Yan, we have never blamed you. Everyone had no choice. You don't have to blame yourself like this." Qin Yan knelt on the ground in pain, and tears flowed out of his eyes. "I almost don't want to see Royal Father again. I don't know why such a thing happened. To live in such pain, I would rather die in battle under the iron hooves of the Tianji army in Songnan province. That would be better." Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said, "The Qin family is getting fewer and fewer. You have to live on strongly. Xiao Yin only has you as his cousin. If you also die, wouldn't Xiao Yin be very lonely in this world?" Qin Yan lowered his head and said, "Big brother, am I really important to everyone?" "Important, very important." Feng Jixing, on the other hand, said, "Ah Yan, you are now the Divine Temple's Grand Deacon, and you are in charge of all the warriors in the world. You and I are all looking forward to you being able to send an endless stream of talents to our Forbidden Army and Longdan Army camp. You must not disappoint us." "I won't." Qin Yan raised his head and pulled out his sword again. A few streaks of sword chi shot into the mountain. Lin Muyu immediately flew to the other side and pulled out the Xianyuan sword. She fiercely hacked at the mountain again and again. In addition to Feng Jixing's furious slashes with his dual blades, in the blink of an eye, this not-so-small mountain range was about to become a pile of rubble. This kind of work efficiency was simply shameful to any quarry team. When the mountain was turned into a pile of rubble, the 3 drunkards were also tired. They laid on the grass facing the sky and slept soundly. Divine power rippled slightly, and they were not afraid of wild beasts coming to take them away. The late autumn dew fell continuously. She only woke up the next morning. Lin Muyu brushed away the leaves that had fallen on her face and rubbed her eyes. Her head was a little heavy. She had drunk too much yesterday. She kicked Feng Jixing's leg and shook Qin Yan's arm, saying, "Big brother Feng, Ah Yen, wake up. Today, there seems to be morning court. Feng Jixing hugged the scarlet phoenix blade and curled up his body. He turned to the side and said, "Don't disturb me. Let me sleep a little longer." "Don't sleep." Lin Muyu sat up, stretched her arms, and said, "The people in the Congress are planning all kinds of things to weaken Xiao Yin's authority. Although Xiao Yin has forbidden the people of the Congress from attending morning court, Chief Qin Lian will still go. Once he brings some decree from the Congress, I'm afraid that Xiao Yin won't be able to handle it alone. We must go." "But I haven't washed up yet. How can I attend morning court?" Feng Jixing said. "I remember there's a small stream not far away. Let's go and wash our faces. Isn't there a stall selling wontons opposite the Divine Palace in the imperial capital? Let's wash our faces, eat something, and then go to the morning court. We should be able to make it in time." "All right, this is too casual," Qin Yan grinned, "but it looks very interesting." The three of them came to the small stream and washed up in the clear stream. Then they flew into Lanyan City. Under the gazes of a group of commoners who looked as though they had seen ghosts, they descended from the sky. They sat down casually, and each of them ate 3 bowls of wontons. Then, they shattered the void and went straight to Zetian Palace. When the 3 of them stepped into Zetian Palace, they had just made it in time when Shangguan Jingyue rang the bell. With a few quick steps, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Qin Yan arrived at the front of the crowd of officials. Qin Yin sat on the throne in a dignified manner, but she couldn't help sniggering, "Big brother you, oh no, Lin General, why did you come in such a hurry?" Lin Muyu said, "I didn't return last night." Qin Yin's delicate brows knitted slightly, and she said, "Where is the Imperial Capital City Patrol officer? Your subject is here. Do you think it's feasible to draft an imperial edict and ban all entertainers, restaurants, and so on within the imperial capital's boundaries?" Qin Yin was jealous. This was terrible. How many straightforward youths like Zhang Wei would be implicated? Feng Jixing nodded, and he said with a low voice, "You, look at how cute Her Highness Yin is when she's jealous." Lin Muyu was expressionless. "You still say that? It's all your fault." He raised his head and said respectfully, "Your Highness, we didn't go to drink with prostitutes. Instead, we got drunk in the jungle outside the city and slept outside for a night." Qin Yin's pair of delicate eyes with a faint flame swept around. After confirming, she said, "That's good." Shangguan Jingyue covered her mouth and laughed, then announced, "If there's anything, please report it to the Emperor." Qin Ao immediately stepped forward, holding a jade scepter in his hand, and said, "There are bandits causing trouble in the dragon-seeking forests Dragon Rocky Mountain. The National Army requests to go and eliminate them. I hope your Highness will approve." The National Army, were they trying to train their soldiers? Qin Yin squinted her beautiful eyes and asked Lin Muyu, and Lin Muyu nodded. "Okay, permission granted." Lin Muyu stood quietly beside Qin Ao. He wanted to see what the National Army was trying to do. Chapter 944. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The demon spirit stone in his palm continued to spin rapidly and finally turned into strands of spiritual energy that seeped into his body. Lin Muyu didn't know how many Tier 4 demon spirit stones he had refined. The 100% absorption rate was very beneficial to him, and the abundant spiritual energy in his body made him feel exceptionally comfortable. He couldn't help but open his mouth and let out a breath. The power in his body seemed to have broken through some kind of limit. What? The barrier in his dantian was instantly broken. An extremely warm stream of air was produced in his body and flowed through every blood vessel. Finally, he broke through to the 50th Grotto Heaven stage. Lin Muyu suddenly felt as if his soul had suddenly opened up. Scenes of the divine world appeared in front of him. It was as if he was there in person. He couldn't help but feel a little excited. These were all illusions of stepping into the 50th Grotto Heaven stage. The warm stream in his body became more and more quiet, as if it had already taken root in his body. "Congratulations, big brother you. You have broken through to the 50th Grotto Heaven stage." At the side, Qin Yin, who stayed up all night to protect Lin Muyu, couldn't help but feel happy. Tang Xiaoxi also smiled happily and said, "Quick, tell me, did you comprehend any ability?" "I think so, but I also don't." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Why do you sound so mysterious? Do you have it or not?" Tang Xiaoxi snuggled up to Qin Yin and asked, "Xiao Yin, you are also at the 50th Grotto Heaven stage. Did you comprehend any ability when you broke through to the 50th Grotto Heaven stage?" Qin Yin shook her head and said, "It is said that the 50th Grotto Heaven stage is the most difficult to comprehend ability. Only 3 to 5 out of 10,000 gods are lucky enough to obtain an ability called healing. This ability can heal the body of a god and restore a large amount of god power in an extremely short period of time. As far as I know, there are not many people who have this ability. Even Sister Haiyan and Seraph Eva don't seem to have this ability. Do you feel the different power in your body?" "It seems so." Lin Muyu opened her palm and activated her divine power. Instantly, a milky white glow appeared, making Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Is this the power of healing?" Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes widened as she reached out and gently held Lin Muyu's hand. Instantly, a gentle and calm energy seeped into her body. She felt a numbing sensation, and the meridians and bones that were damaged due to the demon god transformation were actually slowly being healed. Instantly, Tang Xiaoxi's body trembled, and Lin Muyu was also stunned. Qin Yin seemed to have understood something as well. She murmured, "It can't be. Big brother, you really has the help of God and has comprehended the cure?" Lin Muyu nodded and said, "It seems so." "Xiao Shi, how do you feel now?" Tang Xiaoxi held Lin Muyu's hand tightly and closed her eyes. In a gentle voice, she said, "What a warm power. It seems to be healing the internal injuries caused by the demon god transformation. Wonderful, wonderful. These internal injuries have troubled me for a long time. I thought they would accompany me for the rest of my life." In fact, Lin Muyu could also feel the internal injuries in Tang Xiaoxi's body. Many parts of her bones were already twisted and dislocated. The damage caused by the demon god transformation was simply too great. However, in order to resist a strong enemy, she still transformed without hesitation. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel distressed. She said, "Xiao Shi, why didn't you tell us?" Tang Xiaoxi's body trembled. "I forgot. This reason?" Lin Muyu was a little speechless. Qin Yin said with concern, Can you completely heal Xiao Shi's internal injuries?" Maybe I can, but I'm afraid I can't do it in a short period of time. It will take a long time." Lin Muyu looked at Tang Xiaoxi's comfortable appearance and said, "Xiao Yin, I want to hug Xiao Shi to sleep tonight. We must maintain skin-to-skin contact in order to continue healing her injuries." Tang Xiaoxi immediately blushed and said, "Tui, Mu, you're really one-track-minded. How could you say something like that to Xiao Yin?" Qin Yin stood there in a daze, not knowing what to say. This time, Lin Muyu learned to be smart. She pulled Qin Yin's little hand and said, "There's a bedroom in the southwest side hall of Zetian Palace. The bed in there is very big, enough for 3 people. It's late autumn now and the nights are very cold. Why don't we sleep there? We can sleep together and we can also heal Xiao Shi's internal injuries. What do you think, Xiao Yin?" Qin Yin's face turned red. I'm afraid, what if someone sees us? We can just break through the void and go there, stupid." "Oh," Qin Yin smiled slightly. "All right then, I'm fine with it. What about Xiao Shi?" Tang Xiaoxi put on a helpless look. "I'm injured anyway. I'm only sleeping with the 2 of you to heal my injuries. As for the 2 of you, do as you see fit. Don't be too loud." "What are you thinking, stupid girl?" Qin Yin chuckled. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled and said, "Then let's hurry up and go. It's already midnight." But 3 rays of light flashed by. In the next moment, 3 people appeared in the southwest side hall. The purple light in the bedroom attracted the attention of those outside. A familiar voice sounded, "Who's there?" It was the Tiger Guard commander of the Imperial Guards. Qin Yin regained her dignified voice and said, "It's me. I'll be resting here tonight. Commander Su, bring some men to guard the gate of the side hall. There's no need to leave anyone nearby. Yes, Your Highness. I'll do it immediately. Amidst the sound of footsteps, a few imperial guards left with the palace maids. Qin Yin heaved a sigh of relief and glared at the other two. See, I almost died because of you, Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile, but it seems that you are still quite calm. Our Xiaoyin is indeed fearless in the face of danger. This kind of ability to adapt to changing circumstances is worthy of Her Royal Highness. You're still talking. Qin Yin pouted. Hurry up and get on the bed to treat your injuries. The moment she said that, Qin Yin's face turned red. She had a feeling that something was wrong. Tang Xiaoxi's face was also red. Even though it was a blind spot, it was really sleeping with the Empress. How could she not be embarrassed? In fact, Lin Muyu's heart was also beating fast. Recuperation, what a righteous excuse, but why did she feel a strange excitement and anticipation in her heart? Forget it, it's human nature. Even though I'm a god with supreme godhead, I'm still a human. I have all the emotions of a human. Let nature take its course. The three of them groped their way to the bed. Sure enough, it was a big bed that could fit 5 to 6 people. Moreover, the quilt was also of a larger size. The imperial family was indeed different. However, they soon faced a new problem. It was late autumn, and the night was slightly chilly. Tang Xiaoxi blinked her eyes and asked a question that everyone was concerned about. Should I take off my clothes? Lin Muyu's heart tightened and she begged, of course. Qin Yin pulled a long face. What do you think? Lin Muyu hemmed and hawed. Tang Xiaoxi burst into laughter. It's better to take it off. It's better to wear something that's close to the body. Look, Mu is still wearing the commander's soft armor. Do you think this is a war? Lin Muyu was speechless. Thus, the three of them sat on 3 sides of the bed with their backs facing each other and took off their clothes. When Lin Muyu turned around, she saw that both Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were only wearing a piece of silk clothing that outlined their exquisite figures. It was a temptation that could take one's life. Qin Yin sat on the edge of the bed shyly. She found it difficult to even move her body. Tang Xiaoxi was also sitting on the other side of the bed with her head lowered and her back to the two of them. Lin Muyu felt like she was suffocating. Her heart was pounding, and she flew up to the center of the bed. She lifted the quilt and said, "Why don't the two of you close your eyes?" Tang Xiaoxi nodded. Qin Yin's eyes were closed to begin with. Lin Muyu stretched out his left hand and held Tang Xiaoxi's hand, pulling her into his arms. He then stretched out his right hand and wrapped it around Qin Yin's shoulder, pulling her into his other arms. He then said, "All right, you can pull up the quilt." The two beauties were so embarrassed that their faces were red. Their bodies were burning hot in Lin Muyu's arms. Needless to say, this kind of feeling was something that even the gods wouldn't exchange for. The healing power naturally flowed through his left arm and seeped into Tang Xiaoxi's body. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but let out a comfortable moan. Her delicate body hugged Lin Muyu tightly. A pair of proud peaks pressed tightly against Lin Muyu's left chest, making his heart almost jump out. After all these years, she really continued to grow. On the other side, Lin Muyu hugged his real girlfriend tightly. Qin Yin's delicate body was burning hot. She buried her face between Lin Muyu's neck and was so shy that she didn't dare to raise her head. When her pair of peaks pressed against Lin Muyu's right chest, Lin Muyu suddenly couldn't hold on any longer. This feeling was too fatal, as if she was going to die. "Xiao Yin," he suddenly called out. Qin Yin's voice was gentle. "Touch my nose." Oh. Qin Yin was also a little confused. She gently touched his nose and said, "What's wrong? Is it a wet feeling?" And then, "Am I having a nosebleed?" Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi laughed at the same time and hugged him tightly. If it was a nosebleed, then it was a nosebleed. Lin Muyu was a god. He definitely wouldn't die because of a nosebleed. After a while, Tang Xiaoxi fell asleep in a coma while healing. Qin Yin and Lin Muyu were too nervous to sleep, so Lin Muyu turned her face to Qin Yin and called out softly, "Xiao Yin." Qin Yin responded and naturally raised her beautiful face to kiss Lin Muyu. The soft and fragrant tongue made Lin Muyu feel like she was immersed in the land of tenderness. Qin Yin's body became hotter and hotter. She slowly twisted as if she wanted to melt into the other's body. After kissing for a long time, Qin Yin was panting and blushing. She whispered, "I can't take it anymore. I want to rest." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. At this moment, she was extremely happy. She had waited bitterly for 7 years for love, and it finally came to fruition. But just as he turned his face, he saw Tang Xiaoxi's starry eyes looking at him. She whispered in his ear, "I want it too." Chapter 945. Dragon Rocky Mountain was once the birthplace of the Longdan army camp, but after many years, it had fallen into disrepair. The houses had collapsed, and the civilians who gathered there had dispersed. The entire mountain had become an abandoned mountain. However, in recent months, it had been occupied by a group of mountain bandits, who had resumed their business without any capital. However, this business did not last long, and they were soon targeted by the National Army. In the middle of the night, the densely packed National Army appeared at the foot of Dragon Rocky Mountain, their banners fluttering in the wind. However, the soldiers' uniforms were not neat. The national treasury was empty, and there was not enough cloth and armor to equip the National Army, which was claimed to have 500,000 soldiers. Most of the soldiers were still wearing the clothes that they had when they came from various provinces. Many of them were even dressed like hunters and farmers. Their equipment was not very good either. Rusty iron swords, cracked halberds, and so on could be seen everywhere. The National Army needed to be re-equipped. This was an urgent matter, and it was also the top priority for Zhuang Yan, the National Army's commander. Under the starlight, Zhuang Yan, dressed in a military uniform, looked at the lights on the mountain from afar, and said, "How many people are there in this group of mountain bandits?" Deputy Commander Su Changjing replied, "About 500 in total." They actually want nearly 100,000 of us to surround Dragon Rocky Mountain with just 500 people. That's giving them too much face. Zhuang Yan sneered. It said that this Dragon Rocky Mountain is the place where the Longdan army camp started. After we kill these 500 mountain bandits, burn down Dragon Rocky Mountain for me. Consider it a small warning to Lin Muyu. Su Changjing smiled faintly. "Commander, I think it's fine as long as we do what we want to do. As for burning Dragon Rocky Mountain, it's not necessary. After all, we can't offend people like Wei Chou and Sidu Senator if they're in a good mood one day and want to return to Dragon Rocky Mountain. It wouldn't be good for us to burn down their nest." Zhuang Yan said faintly, "Don't talk so much nonsense. Attack the mountain immediately. We must take down Dragon Rocky Mountain before dawn. In addition, are our firearms ready?" "They're already here, at the foot of the mountain. The merchants left after leaving the goods, and we've already given them the gold notes. Currently, the firearms are under the control of Deputy Commander Lu Xiu." "That's great. Do you have the quantity?" Su Changjing nodded. "A total of 5 heavy magic crystal cannons and 15 light magic crystal cannons. In addition, there are 100 magic crystal crossbows, 120 heavy magic crystal cannons, and 280 light magic crystal cannons. Everything is accounted for." Zhuang Yan narrowed his eyes and laughed heartily. "That's good. Bring out these magic crystal cannons and magic crystal crossbows as soon as the sun rises. Just say that they were taken from the bandits' lair at Dragon Rocky Mountain. Lin Muyu won't let the weapons department forge heavy cannons for us. I'd like to see what he can do this time. These are the spoils of war that our Imperial Army handed over. He wouldn't interfere, would he?" Su Changjing grinned and said, "Yes, I understand. Remember, spend a lot of money to buy more equipment from those illegal merchants. Since the Imperium is unwilling to equip the Imperial Army, we'll equip them ourselves. When the Imperial Army is strong, I'd like to see how Lin Muyu, the Marshal, can keep us in check. Commander is wise, ha!" Before dawn, the Imperial Army had collected a total of 20 magic crystal cannons. They played the Song of Victory and returned to Lanyan City while beating drums and gongs. It wasn't until dusk the next day when they finally returned to Lanyan City with the heavy magic crystal cannons. Almost all the soldiers of the Imperial Army were beaming with joy, even though they were wearing thin clothes and were shivering in the cold. In the late autumn, the grass was fluttering in the wild, and the cool breeze was blowing. The wheels of the magic crystal cannons left deep grooves on the official road, which made the convoy even slower. Although Lanyan City was just ahead, they probably couldn't enter the city before dark. According to Zhuang Yan's military order, 5 of the 20 magic crystal cannons were to be transported into the city and set up in the National Palace as defensive equipment. Tuck, tuck, tuck. In the distance, the sound of hooves could be heard. A neat row of soldiers came from the direction of the capital, carrying the flag of the Longdan army camp. The person at the front was Deputy Commander Wei Chou, who was also the Minister of War and a prominent figure in the capital. Wei Chou led nearly 3,000 cavalrymen and galloped toward the Imperial Army. They stopped about 100 meters away from the Imperial Army. "It's Wei Chou," Su Changjing said with a frown. Zhuang Yan held the horsewhip and urged his horse forward. He said, "So it's Lord Wei Chou. May I know why Lord Wei Chou has led so many people here?" Wei Chou smiled slightly and said in a refined and courteous manner, "Commander Zhuang Yan, I received a report from the Ministry of War's Minister of War that the Imperial Army illegally obtained 20 magic crystal cannons and 100 magic crystal crossbows." As he spoke, he looked at the pitch-black cannon barrels behind Zhuang Yan and said with a smile, "It seems to be true." Zhuang Yan said, "Lord Wei Chou might not know this, but the Imperial Army was ordered by Her Highness to encircle and annihilate the strongmen at Dragon Rocky Mountain. These magic crystal cannons were obtained from the mountain. In order to annihilate the strongmen, the Imperial Army lost hundreds of brothers. I think it's reasonable for these magic crystal cannons to be used as military equipment for the Imperial Army, right?" Wei Chou smiled leisurely and said, "If it's weapons and armor, I can turn a blind eye to it. The spoils of war obtained by the Imperial Army belong to the Imperial Army. However, the Ministry of War has a clear rule that magic crystal cannons and magic crystal crossbows are considered firearms and must be managed in a unified manner. All firearms that appear within the borders of the Empire will be managed and distributed by the Ministry of War. I believe you have seen Lin General's order. The Imperial Army is a mix of good and bad people, and for the time being, no firearms will be distributed. I hope that Lord Zhuang Yan can hand over these magic crystal cannons to the National Treasury. This is also Her Highness's intention." "What? Her Highness's intention?" Zhuang Yan was stunned. Wei Chou raised his hand, held up a golden token, and said with a smile, "There are a total of 3 golden tokens from the Empress. I believe you have seen them before. Seeing the golden token is equivalent to seeing Her Highness." Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the rest knelt down on one knee. Wei Chou smiled faintly and said, "Men, receive the magic crystal cannons and magic crystal crossbows from our brothers in the Imperial Army." "Wei Chou!" Zhuang Yan bellowed, raised his head and said, "Don't go too far. The Imperial Army is the Imperial Army. How dare you be so disrespectful? Men, protect the magic crystal cannons. Whoever dares to touch the magic crystal cannons, I will make him regret being born." "Is that so?" Wei Chou's gaze was ice cold as he said, "Longdan Army Camp, get ready for battle." The 3,000 cavalrymen behind him spread out and formed a circular battle formation. Every soldier held up a magic crystal crossbow, and a total of 3,000 magic crystal crossbows were pointed straight at the Imperial Army. This wasn't something a mere 20 magic crystal cannons could compare to. Furthermore, the distance between the two sides was too close, and the magic crystal cannons were basically useless. Wei Chou was a smart man. He naturally had a card up his sleeve when he approached the Imperial Army from the very beginning. "Commander Zhuang Yan, why don't I do some calculations for you?" Wei Chou smiled and said, "The explosion radius of the magic crystal crossbow is about 10 meters. If 3,000 magic crystal crossbows are fired at close range, the 5,000 soldiers behind you will be instantly vaporized. You won't even have the chance to pull the bowstring of the magic crystal cannons." Once Commander Zhuang Yan is killed by the magic crystal crossbows, I will immediately go to Zetian Palace Hall and tell Her Highness that the Imperial Army didn't obey the golden token and even tried to kill me. Zhuang Yan deserved his death and can't blame anyone else. Do you think your death is worth anything? Moreover, I also have a secret weapon. As he spoke, Wei Chou blew a whistle. Suddenly, the sky was filled with dragon roars, and 6 huge black figures appeared in the sky. They were the Dragon Knights led by Situ Sen and Situ Shui. During the battle in Songnan Province, they had killed dozens of Dragon Knights and seized some giant dragons. The Longdan army camp already had 6 Dragon Knights. Wei Chou smiled and said, "The Dragon Imperial Battle Spiral can defend against magic crystal attacks. As long as I give the order, 3,000 magic crystal crossbows will shoot all of you at the same time, and you won't be able to cause any harm to the Longdan army camp. I advise you not to be stubborn. This is like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Do you understand?" Zhuang Yan trembled with anger, but Wei Chou was right. In the face of absolute power, the national army would not be able to withstand a single blow. Not to mention that the Longdan army camp had been through hundreds of battles. Most of the soldiers in the national army had not experienced war at all. Even 10 of them might not be able to defeat one soldier of the Longdan army camp. This was a fact. Zhuang Yan was a little dejected. He waved his hand and said, forget it. Let the Minister of War take these magic crystal cannons away." As he spoke, Zhuang Yan glanced at Wei Chou and said, "However, Sir Wei Chou, the national army has made great contributions in the battle and seized so many magic crystal cannons and magic crystal crossbows. Shouldn't the Ministry of War's armory give some more armaments to the national army? Look at the group of soldiers behind me. They are the regular army of the Empire, but they don't even have a set of military uniform." Wei Chou's eyes turned red. "Yes, I know the hardships of my brothers. In that case, each magic crystal cannon can be exchanged for 100 sets of military uniforms. When we return to Lanyan City, the armory will allocate 2,000 sets of military uniforms and 2,000 long swords to the national army." Zhuang Yan's face turned green. "Sir Wei Chou, you can't be sending off beggars with so many armaments, right?" Wei Chou said earnestly, "The Empire has been at war for a long time, and the national treasury is almost empty. The wealth that the Radiant King has accumulated for so many years has almost been wiped out by us unfilial descendants in 10 years. These 2,000 sets of military uniforms were obtained with great difficulty. Even the Empress has taken down the curtains of Zetian Palace and dyed them into military uniforms. Her Highness is so diligent and thrifty. Shouldn't Sir Zhuang Yan, as the commander of the national army, set an example by example?" Zhuang Yan's heart was filled with 10,000 grass mud horses. He was speechless from Wei Chou's words. At night, in the national palace. Bam! Zhuang Yan slammed his palm heavily on the table, sending the fruits flying. He was furious. "Despicable, this is too despicable. The Ministry of War is too much and doesn't treat the national army as human beings. Wei Chou, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the others are in cahoots with each other. I'm so angry. Chief, we can't just sit and wait for death." Qin Ran sat there leisurely. Behind him, Qin Yen was standing tall like a statue of a war god. He raised his teacup and took a sip before saying, "Commander Zhuang Yan, don't be impatient. You said that Lin, Feng, Wei, and the others are colluding with each other. Doesn't that mean that you are including Her Highness Qin Yin as well? Sir, please remember that you are also an important member of the Congress. The original intention of establishing the Congress is for the betterment of the Empire. If you even dare to profane the female Empress, then this old man will start to doubt the original intention of establishing the Congress." Zhuang Yan's face turned ashen. "Chief, I misspoke. Please forgive me. It's fine. However, the Ministry of War is indeed too much. They don't respect the national army at all." "Yes, that's right." Su Changjing frowned and said, "The biggest problem for the national army now is rations. The Ministry of War only gives us enough rations for 200,000 soldiers every day. Most of us don't even have enough to eat, let alone train. The biggest problem is clothing. Lanyan City is located in the northern Ridge province. Winter is coming fast, and it might snow within a month. However, most of our soldiers are only wearing autumn clothes. If we don't have 500,000 sets of winter clothing, how are we going to survive this winter? Without 500,000 sets of winter clothing, how are we going to survive this winter? Zhuang Yan clenched his fists and said, Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and Feng Jixing are working together with the Ministry of War and the Ministry of War to cut off our rations and armaments. All they want is for the national army to retreat and for us to leave the capital. Zhou Heng sneered, they are dreaming. Since we are here, we won't leave so easily. Since we don't have military uniforms, we will think of a way to gather and transport them from our fiefdoms. I'm afraid it's too late. Qin Lian frowned and said, many people will freeze to death. They are all citizens of our great Qin. Qin Yan was speechless. Chapter 946. Zetian Palace, Side Hall, Imperial Army Meeting Room. When Wei Chou talked about confiscating 20 magic crystal cannons from the Imperial Army, everyone burst into laughter. Zhang Wei said casually, as expected of the Minister of War. You're so confident even when you're robbing. That's great. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and asked, have you found out where these magic crystal cannons came from? Could it be that other people have also mastered the technology of casting magic crystal cannons other than the Imperial Armament Department? That's not the case. Wei Chou answered, the serial number of the Ministry of War is engraved at the bottom of these magic crystal cannons. If I'm not mistaken, they should have been lost in the Battle of Lingdong Province. Later on, the Tianji Empire's army didn't have time to take them away, so they fell into the hands of the people. As for how the Imperial Army got them, they probably bought them from those merchants or mercenaries. It seems like the Imperial Army is really racking their brains for armaments. Feng Jixing sighed and said, since Zhuang Yan could think of this method to get armaments, he must have thought of other ways. They're still being polite to the Ministry of War for now, but once they have enough armaments and have a solid trump card, I'm afraid that won't be the case anymore. Lin Muyu nodded and said, after all, there are too many people in the Imperial Army. Once they're equipped with magic crystal cannons, it'll be a big deal. Wei Chou, Zhang Wei, you guys have to send people to investigate carefully. Don't let your guard down. Yes, Lin General. The few of them cupped their fists together. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and said, Zhuang Yan and Su Changjing are both smart people. They'll definitely fight against the Imperial Army in other ways. As for what they're best at, it should be stirring up the hearts of the people and using the Constitution. From today onwards, everyone in the Imperial Army must learn the Constitution and restrain their words and actions. No one can be caught by the Imperial Army. Do you all understand? Especially you, Zhang Wei. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, according to the Constitution, there is a military regulation that states that soldiers are not allowed to have more than 3 concubines and are not allowed to play around with women. But you, Zhang Wei, have been in and out of the red light alley. Once you are caught, I'm afraid that no one will be able to protect you. So you have to restrain yourself, understand? Zhang Wei knelt on one knee. Yes, Lin General. I understand. I will restrain myself. After following Feng Jixing for so many years, Zhang Wei's temper had indeed been restrained quite a bit. Based on his temper in the past, he would probably have gone to the Imperial Parliament with a knife and started a massacre. The empire was won by Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Tang Xiaoxi together. Anyone who dared to bully them would be making an enemy out of Zhang Wei. At least, that was what he thought. Lin Muyu sat on the commander's seat and flipped through the military order book in front of her. Winter is coming. How are the preparations for our military supplies? Don't worry, Lin General. In the crowd, Ding Shi cupped his hands and said, Her Highness has ordered me to take charge of the military supplies department. I have already made arrangements with the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Revenue. Everyone in the Longdan Army camp, the Imperial Army, and the exiled army will have a set of cotton clothes ready in half a month. The weather will be cold in half a month and they will come in handy. Well, Thank you, General Ding Shi. Lin Muyu nodded and said, by the way, what about the provisions for the warhorses? Also, have the people we sent to the northern desert to buy warhorses returned? Ding Shi said, the provisions have been prepared. There are more than 40 forage yards in Lanyan City, enough for our 100,000 warhorses to survive the whole winter. In addition, the people who went to the northern desert have come back quickly. Since the death of the northern desert wolf Lord Maodan, more than a dozen tribes have lost their leaders. However, we still have many warhorses. Our envoy met with their tribal leaders and reached an agreement. They are willing to sell us 150,000 warhorses at a price of about 150 Jinhun coins each. So we need to prepare nearly 30 million Jinhun coins. 30 million? Does the Ministry of Revenue have that? The Ministry of Revenue is a little tight. We need to move some Jinhun coins from other places. Lin Muyu frowned and turned to look at Qin Yin. She said, Xiao Yin, do you have money? Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, Zetian Palace is poor too. Even if we cut back on expenditure, we still don't have that much money. There are about 10 million Jinhun coins in the treasury of the palace. You can have it all. You have to figure out a way to get the rest. Lin Muyu turned to the other side. Xiao Shi, does the Seven Seas Palace have money? No. Tang Xiaoxi blinked. During the last expedition to Zhangnan Province, the treasury of the Seven Seas Province was almost used up. Now there's a shortage of supplies. After Xiao Yin returned, she pardoned the people and reduced taxes. So now all the places are very poor. It seems that the 11 years of war have really made the empire poor. The dignified Lanyan city can't even produce tens of millions of Jinhun coins. Yes, it has always been like this. Feng Jixing said, why don't you ask Jin Xiaotang? The Xin Flower Chamber of Commerce should still be rich. These 150,000 warhorses are very important to us. The future war will still be the battlefield of the cavalry. The magic crystal cannons are too clumsy and can only be used for defense. The real offensive war will still rely on the cavalry and the rapid charge of the magic crystal crossbows. We can't do without warhorses. Yes, I will ask. But it won't be too ideal. The big families in Lanyan City are also very poor now. The business of the Xin Flower Chamber of Commerce is not as good as before. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her lips. The Grand Qin Empire has thousands of years of savings. Where did all the money go? It's all on the steel walls and in the wilderness of the battlefield. Feng Jixing sighed. At this time, Ding Shi said, I think there are some people who are very rich. Lin Muyu asked. Take Zhuang Yan as an example. He's the governor of Sunset City, and the Zhuang family he belongs to is a business tycoon in the Swift White Province. Ever since the demons were repelled, Sunset City has been living a peaceful life. Even the war between the Darkstone Empire and the Tianji Empire didn't reach Sunset City. Therefore, Zhuang Yan is very rich. It can be seen from the fact that he could gather nearly 60,000 troops. Without money and military provisions, who would follow him? Qin Yin's lips curled up slightly. Lord Ding Shi, you mean we should slaughter the big families? Ding Shi said, since Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing and the others can establish a parliament with great fanfare to reduce their power, then why should we be polite? We can come up with all sorts of excuses to reduce the properties and fiefs of the feudal vassals. For example, Zhuang Yan is still the governor of Xiang City, but Her Highness the Empress has the power to demote him. Feng Jixing's eyes lit up. General Ding, she means to remove the positions of the feudal vassals in their fiefs? Yes. Ding, she took a deep breath. Her Highness can select a group of young talents from the imperial capital to take up posts in various places. It's called the Decree of the Emperor, but in fact, it's just to replace the feudal vassals' positions in their fiefs and make them lose their roots. If these feudal vassals don't want to be replaced, they need to hand over a certain amount of property to reject the decree of the emperor. This way, they can legitimately confiscate the local financial resources. Good. Lin Muyu clapped her hands and smiled. Lord Ding Shi's plan is not bad. It's feasible. Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, what do you think? Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi nodded in unison. I agree. Lin Muyu looked at Shangguan Jingyue and said, then I'll have to ask Lady Attendant Shangguan to draft up the decree of the Emperor as soon as possible. Send it directly to the feudal vassals. If they don't show any signs within 7 days, take away their fiefs. Yes, Lin General. Shangguan Jingyue left happily. Lin Muyu rubbed her palms together. This way, we have the money to buy war horses. Wei Chou said, Lin General, Shenhou Zheng Yifan sent a letter from Dongshuang City. He learned that the Celestial Empire of the Celestial Pole continent has passed through the forest of no return and has started a war with the Tianji Empire's Zhangcheng army. Chen Yu has started a war with Zhangcheng? Lin Muyu was stunned and said happily, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. This way, the Celestial Pole continent will not be a threat to us for at least half a year. This is great. He was complacent and felt that there was no room for him to sit on the marshal's seat. He then said, oh right, how is the reconstruction of the Empire's navy going? Bailey Tsong cupped his fists. Reporting to the marshal, several large shipyards are short of money, so the construction of the ships is very slow. Currently, there are only about 100 ships. Moreover, the Navy's recruits still need to be trained, so it is impossible for them to form a fighting force in a short period of time. Money. We still need money. Lin Muyu held her forehead and couldn't help but feel a headache. Are you all right? Feng Jixing asked. I'm fine. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, everyone here is the backbone of the empire. Think of a way to get money. Without money, we won't be able to build more ships. Without ships, we won't be able to train our navy. Without the navy, our eastern sea will still be empty. We won't have our own border and can only be attacked. Without warships, we won't be able to gather an army for an expedition. Eastward expedition? Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. Yes, eastward expedition. Lin Muyu looked at her and said with a smile, Xiaoxi, don't you think we should completely destroy the celestial pole continent? I'm afraid this is a little difficult. Ding Shi sighed and said with a smile. I know it's difficult, but we have to prepare in advance. Lin Muyu twirled the pen in her hand. She pondered and said, it's not that I want to be militaristic, but if our Qin Empire doesn't be militaristic, we will definitely be destroyed. Even if I have to let down the future generations, I must fight on. Qin Yin was slightly moved and said softly, I will do my best to support you. Tang Xiaoxi nodded. Me too. All the generals were stunned, then they cupped their fists and said, we will definitely follow the marshal. Wherever the soldiers point, we will never retreat. Lin Muyu smiled happily. The people in front of her were the real pillars of the empire. It was this group of people who defeated strong enemies time and time again. The Iha Kingdom, the Demon Race, the Tianji Empire, and the Blackstone Empire. They were the real treasures of the empire. History would always remember their names and their glorious achievements. Chapter 947. What *T Order of the Emperor? In a side hall, Zhuang Yan's hand trembled as he held onto the Order of the Emperor. Veins popped up on his face. This is like taking drastic measures. It sounds nice to promote talents, but in the end, it's to weaken the feudal lord's power in our fiefs. This must be Lin Muyu's evil plan. As long as we're stripped of our fiefs, we'll be at their mercy. In your dreams. Lu Shiyu's eyelids twitched. I won't hand over Bai Ling City even if I die. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing only know how to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. They've forgotten who rebuilt Bai Ling City all these years. Now that Bai Ling City is prosperous again, they want to get rid of us? Dream on. Su Changjing thought for a while and looked at Qin Kong. He pleaded, Director, you are Her Highness's uncle. Please say something. Her Highness is destroying our roots. Qin Kong looked at Su Changjing and pleaded with Su Changjing. Qin Lian's eyes dimmed. Everyone, isn't the last line of the Order of the Emperor written clearly? If you want to reject the Order of the Emperor, the tax that every feudal lord has to pay is also written clearly. This, Zhuang Yan slammed the Order of the Emperor on the table. The tax that I have to pay is as much as 80 million Jingren coins. Do you really think that my family is a mountain of gold and silver? I don't have that much money. Qin Lian smiled. Sir Zhuang Yan, if I remember correctly, your fiefs in Xiang City are thousands of hectares. It's not an exaggeration to say that you're a marquis. Moreover, the Zhuang family's businesses are almost all over the White Flash Province and Earthstar Province. You're a big merchant in both North and South Ridge Province. The Zhuang family's net worth is at least 200 million Jingren coins. Now that Her Highness needs money, the Empire needs money. As the deacon of the parliament, it's only right for you to bleed. The veins on Zhuang Yan's face bulged. Why should the Zhuang family hand over the hard-earned money? Qin Lian stood up shakily with her cane. I'm tired. I'm going back to rest. Director Zhu, Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others all stood up. With the support of Qin Yan, Qin Lian walked to the entrance of the side hall. She slowly turned around to look at the crowd and said, I know that the establishment of the Congress has greatly increased the status and identity of all of you, but in the end, you are still the subjects of the Qin family, the subjects of Her Highness Yin. If the ruler needs money, you should be loyal to the country. This is a transaction, or else, you can forget about Sunset City and Hundred Ridge City. Qin Yin is the empress, and when she wants to take back her power, she will naturally take back your positions. Although I, Qin Lian, am the chief of the Congress, and all of you have helped me, I am also Qin Yin's uncle, the younger brother of her father. Watching Qin Kong's figure leave, Zhuang Yan and the rest felt as if a large rock was pressing down on their hearts. Lin Muyu's move of taking drastic measures is seriously too ruthless. Zhuang Yan said furiously. Yeah. Su Changjing frowned. The group of feudal vassals remained silent. No one knew what to say. However, Qin Kong had already spoken. Other than accepting her fate and paying the money, there seemed to be nothing else to say. After a long time, a feudal vassal suddenly laughed. It was Yang Zhong, the former Marquis of Yu, a noble of Zhongnan Province, and one of the 10 great deacons of the Congress. Although Yang Zhong did not control as many troops as the other 4 feudal vassals, he was strong in terms of scheming and foresight. This was something that the other 4 feudal vassals could not compare to. Marquis of Yu, what are you laughing at? Zhuang Yan asked. Yang Zhong stroked his beard and said, It's really funny to see all of you frowning. Marquis of Yu. Zhuang Yan's voice became much sterner. Yang Zhong said, Instead of being at a loss here, why not think of a way to counterattack Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing? Counterattack? Su Changjing was stunned. That's right, counterattack. Yang Zhong's eyes turned cold. He said, Lin Muyu used the token of grace to weaken our power and steal our wealth. In that case, we should use our own methods to cut off Lin Muyu's right-hand man. What do you mean? As far as I know, the siblings, Sidu Sen and Sidu Shui, have a mansion in Lanyan City that is as large as 400 mu. Although the front yard is not too big, there are many livestock in the backyard to feed the giant dragons and frost-armored horned dragons. In the constitution that we have just established, the mansion of a deputy commander cannot exceed 20 mu. However, Sidu Sen has exceeded it by 20 times, which is enough for him to die 10,000 times. Lord Zhuang Yan, you are one of the framers of the Constitution, so you should know the punishment of exceeding 20 times, right? Zhuang Yan shuddered. Behead, that's right. Yang Zhong stroked his beard and said proudly, Since the Imperial Army is the army that defends the Constitution, if not now, then when? This Sidu Sen's mansion is as large as half of Zhe Tian Palace. An officer like him must have received a lot of bribes. Who else should we kill if not him? Zhuang Yan clapped his hands and said with a smile, Great? Great. This is great. Su Changjing squinted his eyes. However, don't forget that Sidu Sen is a godly state expert. Although he is only a divine venerable one, he is still a god. How can our imperial army make Sidu Sen submit? Lord Su, please rest assured. Yang Zhong said, Since we have the means to buy the demonic crystal cannons, we naturally have the means to buy the weapon that can restrain a godly state expert, the demonic heart arrow. The Empire's battlefield is almost 1,000 miles from Winterfrost City to the steel protective wall. There are many demonic heart arrows along the way. I have already ordered my Imperial Guards to equip them with demonic heart arrows. As long as you shoot Situsen before he gets on the dragon, he will be nothing but a mortal. When do we do it? Zhuang Yan asked. Yang Zhong said, we do it at midnight. We will execute him at dawn. Let Lin Mu wake up to find the head of the deputy commander of the Longdan army camp hanging on the palace gate of Zetian Palace. Good, very good. Zhuang Yan's eyes were full of ruthlessness. He said, men, gather the imperial army immediately. I want 10,000 cavalrymen, no, 20,000, all of them must be elites. We will do it at midnight. Islotsu. Late at night, the Situ residence was brightly lit. Nearly 200 soldiers of the Longdan army camp who were guarding the Situ residence fanned out outside the residence. Each of them held a sharp sword in their hand, preventing the imperial army from taking another step forward. A centurion said coldly, this is the residence of General Situ Senator who dares to make trouble? Zhuang Yan rode his horse forward and stretched out his hand to unroll a piece of paper. He said, Situ Sen expanded his mansion without permission and violated the Constitution. The Congress has already issued an arrest warrant. Anyone who dares to disobey will be killed. Come and try if you have the guts. Go! The two sides quickly engaged in a fierce battle. The Imperial Army's heavy shield soldiers surged forward like a tide. However, the 200 elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp were like an impenetrable wall. On the other hand, the Imperial Army on the periphery was constantly being slashed by the sharp swords. Damn it! This is a rebellion! Su Changjing shook his arm. The sword in his hand shone brightly. It was a supreme-grade book. Flames fell from the sky and landed on the 200 elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp. Screams were heard. How could the bodies of ordinary people resist the power of the heavenly book? Thousands of Imperial Army soldiers rushed forward and killed the soldiers of the Longdan army camp who were burned by the flames. They were unstoppable. However, just before the group of people entered the residence, a golden light suddenly bloomed. It was Situ Sen's attack. Buzz. The sword aura contained divine power. Situ Sen's sword instantly killed dozens of Imperial Army soldiers. His face was filled with anger. He shouted in a low voice, bastards, how dare you use force on the Empire's Longdan army camp? The culprit has appeared. Zhuang Yan waved his hand and said, go. Kill him on the spot if he resists. A group of archers quickly appeared. They aimed at Situ Sen and unleashed a barrage of arrows. However, Situ Sen's movements were simply too fast. His entire body was like a bolt of lightning that was difficult to capture. His long sword swept through the crowd with snowflakes. After sweeping a circle, dozens of Imperial Army soldiers were instantly frozen into ice cubes by the power of his star mantra. Kill, kill, kill. When Situ Sen saw that a group of his subordinates had been killed, he was extremely enraged. His killing intent had been completely ignited. His blade was imbued with divine power, and he directly pierced into the crowd, charging towards a group of feudal vassals. You despicable animals! I didn't die on the battlefield, but do you think I'll die in the hands of you lowly people? Situ Sen's long sword let loose a ringing sound, and he quickly unleashed initial starlight into the crowd, blasting a massive crater into the stone ground in front of the manor. 7 or 8 soldiers were instantly torn to shreds by the eruption of energy, but there was still a relentless barrage of arrows flying toward him, only to be repelled by Situ Sen's suit of battle armor. How many of our Imperial Army soldiers are you trying to kill? One of the feudal lords, Zhou Heng, abruptly gripped his saber tightly as he yelled, "Get out of my way! I'm going to kill him!" Zhou Heng was the most powerful being among the feudal lords, but he had overestimated himself. Die! A burst of purple flames appeared on the blade of his sword, and after destroying Zhou Heng's saber, Situ Sen quickly slashed his sword through the air, instantly vaporizing Zhou Heng's body. Thump, thump, thump. Several demon heart arrows also instantly pierced through Situ Sen's suit of battle armor before piercing into his arms. Master Zhou Heng is dead. Master Zhou Heng is dead. All of the imperial army soldiers were in a state of panic. Zhuang Yan roared with fury, "How dare you, citizen? How dare you defy the law and kill a royal guard? Then kill them." Whoosh whoosh whoosh, all of a sudden, several iron nets that were filled with demon heart stones fell from the sky, instantly trapping the severely wounded citizen within. Several imperial army soldiers charged through the nets before striking citizen's suit of armor with their sabers. This renowned general who had dominated the entire eastern region battlefield let loose a muffled groan as he fainted. "Tie him up and bring him back to the imperial army. Soldiers, enter the residence and gather evidence of citizen's corruption. Kill all of those giant dragons and frost armor dragons." Zhuang Yan's expression darkened with rage. Even though they had managed to kill citizen, the imperial army had lost Zhou Heng, and that was a massive humiliation to the imperial army. Chapter 948. In one of the many rooms in Zetian Palace, a person sat cross-legged on a futon. Golden miniature elephant wheels slowly rotated around his body. It was as spectacular and magnificent as a planet orbiting a star. These days, Lin Muyu had never slacked off in his training. He needed to become stronger, and he needed to become stronger quickly in order to cope with the changes that might occur in the future. Beside him, Tang Xiaoxi leaned against the headboard and dozed off. She seemed to be very tired. Tang Xiaoxi did not have much time to train. She relied more on her innate talent. Perhaps, to her, ample rest was much more important than hard training. Qin Yin held a wooden sword in her hand. She was dressed in the long dress of an empress. Under the illumination of the crane lamp, she slowly swung the wooden sword. Although it was just an ordinary wooden sword, an invisible aura surged around the sword. It was as if every strike of the sword had the power to swallow the heaven and earth. This kind of aura was the essence of Shi Yan's 7 strikes. Yi slowly entered a state of natural sleep. Lin Muyu relaxed his entire body and let the divine power flow through his body. It automatically refined his muscles, bones, and flesh. This training method could also increase the strength of his divine power step by step. The strength of his power was related to the stage of his cultivation. Only when his power reached a certain level could he break through to a new realm. But suddenly, Lin Muyu woke up from his training. He frowned and said, "Something bad happened. Sidhu Sen's aura has disappeared." "What happened?" Qin Yin was stunned. She closed her eyes and carefully sensed for a while. She said, "Indeed, General Sen's aura has disappeared." Tang Xiaoxi slowly woke up. "What happened?" "I'm afraid that Sidhu Sen has met with a mishap. I can no longer capture his aura." Lin Muyu instantly felt a chill down his spine. His forehead was full of sweat. If he did not faint, then he is dead. Raising his hand to grab the Xianyuan sword on the sword rack, Lin Muyu did not even put on his armor. He just casually said to the 2 girls, "I am going to Sidhu Sen's mansion to take a look. Do you want to come with me?" "Go!" 3 rays of light flashed, and in the next moment, the figures of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi appeared in front of the mansion. Moreover, the flames of war in front of the mansion had not yet been extinguished, and piles of flames were still burning the corpses of the dead. The horizontal board of the Sidhu mansion had already been smashed, and there were even a few soldiers carrying a huge beast's head out. It was the head of a blue dragon. Lin Muyu was so angry that her entire body was trembling. She flew forward and her power rippled out. She said sternly, "What's going on? What happened in the Sidhu residence? Who killed this blue dragon?" A few of the soldiers recognized Lin Muyu. One of the sergeants immediately knelt on one knee and said, "Greetings, Lin General. This is an order from the chief." General Sidhu Sen expanded the size of the mansion without permission, which greatly exceeded the restrictions of the Constitution. Therefore, the Congress has decided to severely punish Sidhu Senator. As for this blue dragon, it was Commander Zhuang Yan who ordered us to shoot it with white diamond arrows. Lin Muyu gripped the Xianyuan sword tightly. Her anger turned into power and surged out. The stone bricks under her feet cracked and rose. Her eyes seemed to be burning as she roared, "Who do you think you are? How dare you touch my people without permission? Are you looking for death? This blue dragon is our trophy, a bargaining chip for the Empire to fight against a strong enemy in the future. How dare you shoot a giant dragon? What a bunch of idiots! Tell me, where is Situ Sen? What about Situ Shui? Where is she? The sergeant stammered. Situ Sen has been escorted to the Congress. He will be executed at dawn. We didn't see Situ Shui. She didn't return to the residence today. She should be living in the camp. Lin General, I didn't lie to you. Please spare my life, Lin General. Lin Muyu looked at the bodies of the elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp on the ground. She couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. She said, "My soldiers, were they killed by you?" The sergeant trembled. Yes. It was the commander who ordered us to shoot them. These brothers of the Longdan army camp swore to protect citizens, so they were shot. Zhuang Yan, you bastard! Lin Muyu was furious. With a wave of his palm, the sergeant immediately turned into ashes. He said angrily, "Put down the dragon head. The Situ residence is the territory of the Longdan army camp. All soldiers, get out." Yes. A group of soldiers retreated from the Situ residence while trembling. They knew who Lin Muyu was. In the eyes of the soldiers of the Empire, Lin Muyu was a godlike existence. In the eyes of the soldiers, Lin Muyu was the biggest warlord in the Empire. If anyone angered him, it wasn't impossible for him to kill them in public. Moreover, the two beautiful girls who came with Lin Muyu seemed very familiar. They were the Empress Qin Yin and the Princess Fugu Tang Xiaoxi. Let's go to the Congress immediately. The most important thing is to save General Situ, Qin Yin said. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded and said, "We will split into two groups. I think since the soldiers have caught Situ Sen's mistake, they will definitely not let it go. Even if Xiao Yin and I go, they may not let it go. Since the soldiers are so daring, I will let them know how high the sky is. Xiao Shi, take my commander's seal and go to the Longdan army camp. Order Wei Chou to immediately lead 50,000 cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp into the city and surround the Congress. If Zhuang Yan doesn't hand over Situ Sen today, I will destroy the Congress." Tang Xiaoxi took the seal and said, "Yes, you and Xiao Yin must be careful. Don't make a move unless it's absolutely necessary. There are many soldiers in the army, and it is said that they have the Devil's Heart arrow." "Yes, go ahead." After Tang Xiaoxi left, Lin Muyu and Qin Yin flew side by side in the direction of the Congress. The distance between them wasn't too far. It would take an hour to walk, but it would only take about 5 minutes to fly. It was late at night, but the Congress was brightly lit and heavily guarded. Just the periphery of the Congress was guarded by a dense group of 5,000 soldiers. There were even soldiers armed with magic crystal crossbows standing guard on the walls of the Congress. As expected, the soldiers had already made up their minds. Swoosh, swoosh, 2 rays of light descended from the sky. They were Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. They landed in the courtyard of the Congress and landed in front of Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others. Zhuang Yan was stunned. Su Changjing was also stunned. "Greetings. Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Lin General." A group of people knelt down one after another. After all, the Empress was supreme. She was the master of everything, and she was even above the newly established constitution. At least, that was what was written in the law. The Empress had the highest decision-making power, followed by the Congress. "Where's Situ Sen?" Lin Muyu looked at Zhuang Yan coldly. Zhuang Yan gritted his teeth and said, "I don't know what Lin General is talking about." With a clang, the Xian Yuan sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu pointed the blade at Zhuang Yan's neck and said, "I won't ask you a third time. Where's Situ Sen?" Zhuang Yan's face turned pale. Zhuang Yan's face turned pale. He retreated a few steps and knelt on the ground, saying, "Your Highness, please understand. As a deacon of the nation and the commander of the nation's army, it is my responsibility to uphold the authority and enforcement of the Constitution. Situ Sen expanded his mansion without permission and didn't repent even when we went to rectify his mistake. He even killed General Zhou Heng. This person is reckless and presumptuous, And he has the style of a warlord. Our imperial capital's empress is supreme and governs the country. How can we tolerate such a madman? Qin Yin slowly opened her eyes. Even though she had tried her best to reduce the power emitted by the flaming eyes, it still made Zhuang Yan feel as if he was in a hell of fire. He was in unbearable pain. Situ Sen is the deputy commander of the Empire's regular army. According to the Constitution, the arrest of such a high-ranking general must first be approved by the Congress and then approved by me. Secondly, to kill Situ Sen, it must be approved by all the members of the Congress. Zhuang Yan, aren't you being a little too hasty? Everyone thought that Qin Yin was just an empress who was well-versed in martial arts, but they didn't know that she had already memorized the newly established constitution. Zhuang Yan knelt on the ground, dumbfounded and speechless. Qin Yin continued, if you really kill Situ Sen, then your crime will be private punishment. As long as Situ Sen is dead, you, Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and Lu Xiu will have to pay for Situ Sen's death with your life. The Congress will continue to implement this as a national policy, but I will never allow you to abuse your power for personal gain. Do you understand? With just a few simple sentences, Zhuang Yan completely gave up on the idea of killing Situ Sen immediately. It could be said that Qin Yin's words had completely saved Situ Sen's life. Then, where is Situ Sen? Qin Yin asked faintly. Zhuang Yan said, he is locked up in the backyard of the Congress. But Your Highness, it's true that Situ Sen expanded his residence without permission. We can spare Situ Sen's life, but we must hold him accountable. Therefore, we must not release Situ Senator. This is the responsibility and mission of the National Army. Bring Situ Sen here. Lin Muyu said faintly, I am the Empire's marshal. I have the right to see my subordinate and ensure his safety. But this is against the law. Which part of the Constitution states that the marshal cannot see the generals of the National Army? Lin Muyu's gaze turned cold. But Zhuang Yan still wanted to dodge. However, out of the blue, Lin Muyu's figure suddenly stepped forward. She raised her hand and slapped Zhuang Yan's cheek. Zhuang Yan's cheek immediately turned blood red. Zhuang Yan even rolled away from the slap and was held up by a group of soldiers. Looking at Zhuang Yan coldly, Lin Muyu said faintly, Zhuang Yan, if you are smart, quickly hand over Situ Senator, otherwise, I will crush your bones and scatter your ashes. I want to see Situ Sen safe and sound right now. Su Changjing hurriedly said, Please calm down, Lin General. Sir Zhuang Yan is after all a deacon of the National Army and a commander of a regular army. Isn't Lin General Lin's slap equivalent to an abuse of justice? Lin Muyu smiled. If my slap is an abuse of justice, then is it murder for you to kill hundreds of my brothers in the Longdan army camp? We are just carrying out our official duties. Su Changjing hurriedly explained. Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, Don't be in a hurry to explain. I will settle accounts with you for killing my men in the Longdan army camp. None of you will be able to escape. Now, get Situ Sen here. Lu Xiu was furious. Lin General, don't go too far. With that, the group of archers behind Lu Xiu raised their longbows in unison and aimed their white drill arrows at Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. Ha! Lin Muyu burst into laughter and said, What a huge joke. The swords of the National Army are actually pointed at the Empress and the Marshal. Are you the guards of the National Army or a group of rebels? Come on, try to shoot as many arrows as you can. This way, there will be no more National Army tomorrow. As for you traitors, I will restore the old system of the Empire. I will put your heads on pikes and place them on the city walls. I will send people to kill your wives and children, dig up your ancestral graves, and wipe out your entire clan. Come on, give me a reason to kill you. Release the arrows. The group of archers was dumbfounded. Facing Lin Muyu's monstrous aura, who would dare to make a move? Chapter 949. Stop! A dignified voice came from the inner hall. The president of the Congress, Qin Yan, had finally arrived with a crutch. His aged face was dignified as he said, Are you trying to rebel? Put down your bows and arrows. In front of you is the Empress and the Marshal of the Empire. Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, how did you restrain your subordinates? Zhuang Yan hurriedly raised his hand. All of you, put down your weapons. He glared at Lu Xiu as if blaming him for letting his subordinates assume a fighting stance. This way, trouble followed, and it wasn't just ordinary trouble. Greetings, Chief. The group of Congress soldiers saluted. After all, the highest commander of the Congress army was Chief Qin Yan in name. However, Qin Yan couldn't voice his bitterness because the Congress army was never under his control. Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Lin General, Qin Shao said. Uncle, you may dispense with the formalities. Qin Yin said faintly. She had a stomach full of anger but couldn't vent it. Since Qin Yan was here, she had to give him face. Qin Yan held his father's arm and said loudly, Come, bring General Situ Sin here. A few Sanctum instructor-level practitioners carried a person over. It was the unconscious Situ Senator. His eyes were tightly shut and he was in a daze. No one knew if he had fainted or died. Lin Muyu hurriedly went forward and checked his breath. He was still breathing, but it was very weak. She quickly raised her palm and the healing power quickly surrounded Situ Senior. Big brother, don't waste your energy. Qin Yan said, General Sen was shot by a poisonous arrow and his body was poisoned. He won't wake up for a while unless someone knows how to detoxify it. What poison is it? Lin Muyu looked at Zhuang Yan and roared, What poison? Speak. Zhuang Yan stammered, Emerald Eagle's poison, Emerald Eagle's poison? Lin Muyu was drenched in cold sweat. She had heard of this poison before. The Emerald Eagle was a rare bird, but its beak was highly venomous. The poison seeped directly into the brain and could destroy the nervous system of a person's brain. If it was delayed for too long without treatment, the person would be a cripple even if they woke up. You guys are so ruthless, using poison on the deputy commander of the empire? Lin Muyu gnashed her teeth as she glared at Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others. Her eyes were filled with fury, and she could not wait to burn these despicable people into ashes. Zhuang Yan cupped his fists and explained, Situ Sen is an immortal state expert, so we have to be careful. Do you have the antidote for the Emerald Eagle's poison? Reporting to Lin General, this poison is incurable. There is no antidote at all. We can only rely on the fate of the victim, Su Changjing said. Fate? Lin Muyu smiled miserably and said, one word after another, Situ Sen has followed me for 8 years and made great contributions in the past 8 years. If he dies, all of you will be buried with him. None of the 500,000 soldiers will be left behind. They will all be buried with Situ Sen. Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, Lin Muyu said coldly, Yan, go to the spiritual medicine department immediately and ask head Deacon Chu Yao to come and diagnose him. She might have the antidote. No, we'll send Situ Sen to the spiritual medicine department immediately. Wait. Zhuang Yan raised his arm and said, Situ Sen is still a felon and can't leave the parliament. This is the rule of the constitution. Please don't make things difficult for us, Lin General. How dare you? Zhuang Yan closed his eyes and said, if Lin General wants to kill me, then kill me. I, Zhuang Yan, will die to protect the dignity of the constitution. My death is not to be regretted, but Lin General trampled on the law. This behavior is despicable. In the future, the world will understand why I died. Lin Muyu smiled. Zhuang Yan, you're a good dog, but you have such a loyal performance. Not bad. Qin Yan cupped his fists and said, Lin General, I think it's better to ask head Deacon Chu Yao for help. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. Yan, go quickly. Go personally. Yes, big brother. Qin Yan had already shattered the void and left in a flash. However, the atmosphere in the parliament was still tense. After a long time, the rescuers from the spiritual medicine department didn't arrive. Instead, it was the heavy galloping of horses outside the parliament. After a few loud booms, the doors of the parliament were blasted open by magic crystal crossbows. Arrows were shot in from the outside, and the 5,000 soldiers in charge of guarding the perimeter became corpses in the blink of an eye. Amidst the thick smoke, The cavalry from the Longdan army camp led by Wei Chou and Situ Shui charged in. In terms of combat strength, even 10 soldiers from the Longdan army camp wouldn't be a match for 1 soldier from the Longdan army camp. Wei Chou held a head in his hand, dismounted from his horse, and knelt on one knee. "Greetings, Your Highness." "Greetings, Lin General." "Whose head is it?" Lin Mu asked. "A general. He has already admitted to killing a few of our brothers from the Longdan army camp in the Situ residence," Wei Chou said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. Zhuang Yan was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He originally thought that the parliament would be relatively safe with so many soldiers guarding it, but he didn't expect that it would collapse at the first blow from the regular army. Lin Mu asked faintly, "How many people did you bring?" 50,000 cavalry. Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "I have already surrounded the parliament. Not even a fly can escape. As long as Lin General gives the order, I will bring people to wipe out all the soldiers in the parliament." The simple cleanup was like a bolt from the blue to the commanders of the imperial army. After all, there were 20,000 imperial army soldiers stationed in the imperial palace. "You are all crazy. You must be crazy," Zhuang Yan muttered. Lin Mu sneered, "No, you are the crazy one." "Zhuang Yan, do you know what kind of army is the Longdan army camp? This is an army that has existed since year 7731 of the empire calendar. It participated in the war when the Iha nation besieged Lanyan city. The Longdan army camp has been fighting for 11 years. How many people have died and how many times their blood has been changed? If the Longdan army camp didn't exist, the empire would have been annihilated many times. How dare you order the massacre of the soldiers in the Longdan army camp? You are the crazy one who doesn't know who you are." At this moment, Situ Shui dashed forward and pounced on Situ Senator. Her eyes were red and anxious as she said, "Brother, what happened to you?" "Brother, I haven't been back for a day and you have become like this." "Ah Shui, General Sen has been poisoned," Qinin said. Before she finished speaking, 2 people suddenly descended from the sky. It was Qin Yan and Chu Yao. Chu Yao was dressed in the elegant white robe of the great deacon. She landed beside Sidu Sen and quickly diagnosed his pulse. Her brows were slightly furrowed and she didn't say anything. Instead, she took out a set of silver needles from her waist. "Sister Chu Yao, can he still be saved?" Lin Muyu bent down and asked. Chu Yao nodded. Fortunately, Sidu Sen's cultivation is profound. The emerald eagle's poison was sealed in his blood vessels with his divine power, but it didn't enter his heart and head. I will use the method of drinking blood and purging the poison with silver needles to save him. You, help me guard. During this period of time, no one can disturb me. Also, tell the people outside to stop fighting. Many people have already died." "Okay." Lin Muyu waved her hand. "Wei Chou, stop fighting. Capture all the murderers who participated in the attack on Situ residents and send them to Ding Shi. Let Ding Shi punish them according to the military law." "Yes, Lin General." Zhuang Yan hurriedly said, "No, the country has its laws. They are only law enforcers. They are definitely not murderers." Lin Muyu said indifferently, "You carry out your national law, I will carry out my military law. Without my military order, you attacked the regular army of the empire without permission. I am already being lenient by not banning the designation of the national army." Zhuang Yan was startled and didn't say anything else. If the national army was banned, then this operation of the national army was equivalent to losing everything. Detoxification with silver needles was a long process. The silver needles were pierced into the blood vessels, and after a long time, black blood would flow out along the silver needles. Situ Shui carefully wiped at the side, while Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi were guarding at the side. This night was too important for the empire. This was the first large-scale conflict between the national army and the Longdan army camp. If it wasn't handled well, it would lead to civil strife. Even if the Longdan army camp won, how could it be considered a victory if they slaughtered 500,000 soldiers of the empire? Lin Muyu was afraid to take action, and Zhuang Yan and the others were also afraid. This made the situation reach a delicate balance, and no one was willing to break this balance. Until dawn, suddenly Citizen whimpered and slowly opened his eyes, but he was too weak to make a sound. He just blinked when he saw Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. This was already his etiquette. Have a good rest. Lin Muyu frowned and said, rebuild the Situ residence into the barracks of the Longdan army camp in the city. It won't be included in the plan of the residence. Buy land and double the size of the city. Accommodate 10,000 soldiers to live and train in the city. If anyone comes to cause trouble, kill them without reporting back. Wei Chou and Sidu Shui showed a trace of gratification. Lin Muyu looked coldly at Zhuang Yan and the others, stood up, stretched her body, and said, it's better for the national army to train properly and not make trouble for yourselves. Wei Chou, deploy 20,000 soldiers to the Longdan army camp to guard outside the barracks of the national army. Without the deployment order from the Ministry of War, kill any soldiers without the Empress's warrant. Xiao Yin Xiao Shi, let's go back. Okay. Everyone escorted the Empress out, but before she left the residence, a light cavalry from the Ministry of War came from afar, dismounted, and knelt on the ground. He said in a low voice, Your Highness, Lin General, a man who claims to be the governor of Ba Huang Province requests an audience. He says his name is Qianfeng. Qianfeng? Lin Muyu was stunned. Where is he? In Zetian Palace Hall. Okay, we will go immediately. Yes. In Zetian Palace Hall, Qianfeng was dressed in a white robe. Behind him were 4 high-level demon generals, all of whom were at the rank of captaincy. When Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi entered the hall, Qianfeng immediately knelt with his subordinates and said loudly, Qianfeng pays his respects to Your Highness and Lin General. Lin Muyu laughed heartily. She went forward to support Qianfeng by his arm and said, Marshal, it's been a long time. If you didn't delay the flowing spirit army at the Tongtian Gorge, I'm afraid Lanyan City would have long been in the hands of others. I'm just doing my duty to protect my homeland. Qianfeng touched his nose, looked deeply at Qin Yin, and said, Your Highness, it's been a long time. Congratulations on your rebirth and obtaining the flaming eyes. Can I take a look at it? Qin Yin slowly opened the flaming eyes. Immediately, Qianfeng was covered in cold sweat and said, What a powerful domain. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Marshal Qianfeng, you must have something to do in the imperial capital this time. Logically speaking, Ba Huang province is being rebuilt. As the governor, you should be extremely busy. That's right. I have something to do. Qianfeng said, when we were excavating underground magic crystals, we accidentally collapsed a mountain and made some shocking discoveries at the bottom of the mountain. What discovery? There are many people here. Lin Muyu smiled and waved her hand to dismiss the people around her. There were only 3 to 5 people left. Qianfeng quickly took out a white handkerchief and slowly unfolded it. There were actually 2 dead bees lying quietly in the handkerchief and said, This is the discovery. Winter is coming, but there are still bees? Qin Yin was stunned. Your Highness, the truth is here. Qianfeng quickly pulled the bee's head and tail apart. He saw that the inside of the bee was not some internal organs, but a metallic cylinder. There were even sparks on it. Chip. Lin Muyu's body trembled. Chapter 950. What is a chip? Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were puzzled. It's hard to explain in a few words. Lin Muyu held the chip in her hand and looked at it carefully under the sunlight. She said, Marshal Qianfeng, are there any other strange discoveries besides these? Qianfeng nodded. There is a huge building complex at the foot of the mountain. It's very strange. I can't tell what it is. The periphery has been destroyed by the armored demons, but the interior has been preserved by my order. This kind of bees swarm, countless, and there are still countless bees in some sealed boxes in the building complex. They are the chips you mentioned, Lin General. What is a chip? It's a kind of technology. Lin Muyu nodded and said, it's a product that is at least 200 years ahead of our current technological era, or even more. I can't tell for the time being, But this matter is of great importance and is very likely to affect the development of the continent in the future. Since this thing is found in the mountains of the Tongtian Gorge, let's go and have a look at it immediately. I also want to see what it is with my own eyes. Qianfeng made a fist and palm salute. Qin Yin puffed out her chest and said, I want to go too. Tang Xiaoxi also nodded. Lin Muyu frowned. The people of the Congress are stirring up trouble in Lanyan City. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for us to all go there. It's not inappropriate. Qin Yin smiled with her dimples. If we fly in the air, it will take us at most 1 day to go to the Tongtian Gorge and 2 days at most. The capital is guarded by General Feng and a Yen. Nothing serious will happen. Besides, didn't you order the Longdan army camp to guard Lanyan City? Well, let's go now. We can still make it in time for the morning court meeting the day after tomorrow. All right. Lin Muyu nodded at Qianfeng and said, in that case, Marshal Qianfeng will lead the way. We have to rush to Tongtian Gorge as fast as possible. It just so happens that Xiao Yin hasn't been to Ba Huang province since she came back. Let's treat this trip as a long journey for the Empress. Qianfeng cupped his fists. It is my province's honor to have your highness inspect Ba Huang province. Then let's go. Yes. In the sky, 4 figures rushed into the sky. When they reached a height of almost 1,000 meters, they suddenly turned and rushed towards the northeast. Qianfeng, who had the lowest cultivation among the 4, was also close to the God King realm. They were very familiar with flying. Compared to the pericelestial experts, they knew better how to use their divine power to fly and maintain their physical strength and speed. While flying at high speed, it was a piece of cake to overlook thousands of miles of mountains and rivers. The beauty of the Shattered Cauldron world far surpassed that of the celestial pole continent. The mountains, rivers were beautiful. The land was lush, and it also surpassed the wilderness and deserts of the celestial pole continent. The main drainage basin of the Rice River cut the land into several pieces, while the subdrainage basin nourished and irrigated thousands of miles of farmland. Along the way, there were groups of villages and sheep herding. The Shattered Cauldron world, which was still considered rich after several wars, was indeed a treasure among the stars. This is our world, Lin Muyu said excitedly. The corner of Qin Yin's mouth rose slightly. She maintained the speed of flying side by side with Lin Muyu and said, this is the world that Brother Yu has endured all these years to protect. The people of the nation are right about one thing. The world belongs to the people of the world and not directly to the emperor. For so many years, the 3 kings have ruled the world with benevolence and righteousness. You guys have worked hard. Lin Muyu laughed softly. It's not hard. Don't we have Xiao Yi now? Brother Feng and I can also rest a little and slack off. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her lips. The nation has repeatedly caused trouble. I think you and General Feng can't slack off. Lin Muyu smiled. She looked at Qianfeng and said, Marshal Qianfeng, you have also heard about the matter of the nation's army, right? I have heard a little about it. Qianfeng said in a deep voice, given my temperament, I will definitely not condone the nation. I would rather fight to the death than kill this group of despicable people. However, Her Highness Yin and Lin General Lin's actions are more inclined to the way of the king. They are much more brilliant than what I, a general from a humble background, would do. However, what I don't understand is, since Lin General allowed the nation to continue, does he not have any plans for the future? He has plans. A radiance flashed across Lin Muyu's eyes. She said, there is nothing wrong with the constitutional monarchy. It is a progress of civilization. What is wrong is that the nation has been controlled by a group of despicable people with military power. If we could change the blood of the nation, perhaps this nation would become a true nation. It could be a nation that can help Xiao Yin strategize, share responsibilities, and formulate the nation's strategy. Qin Yin was slightly startled. She opened her small mouth. Big brother, you know so many things. Wait until you return to my hometown. You will naturally understand why I know all these. Lin Muyu rubbed her nose, but that might be something that will happen 10 or even 20 years later. Without the strength of a grand perfection god emperor, It would be hard to travel through space to return to my hometown because that place is too far away. It is unbelievably far. Qin Yi nodded lightly. I will work hard to cultivate. In the wind, Qin Yin's beautiful face was filled with expectation and gentleness. At this moment, she did not look like an empress. Instead, she looked more like Lin Muyu's long-awaited girlfriend. Perhaps the sands of time would sharpen one's willpower, allowing one to understand what one wanted more. In the past, Qin Yin wanted to live up to her ancestors and support Great Qin. Now, after experiencing so many things, Qin Yin finally understood that accompanying the person she loved was the most beautiful dream. Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and looked at them. She smiled. Then what is Mu's plan for the future of the nation? Lin Muyu pondered. The Qin Empire has a total of 13 provinces and more than 150 states. Hence, we can issue an edict to choose a member from each state to participate in the parliament. And this member should be a person with lofty ideals. With these members, we can replace the feudal vassals in the parliament. Step by step, we can reform the parliament. In less than half a year, the parliament will be renewed. Qin Yin was surprised. Actually, I have the same idea. Let's implement it after we return. When the sun was setting, the four of them flew into Tong Tian Gorge. Looking down, the barracks in the gorge stretched for dozens of miles. Rows of Central South Iron Cavalry finished their training and were on their way back. In the past half a year, Tong Tian Gorge had been attacked time and time again. But the army was getting bigger and bigger. There were at least 50,000 Iron Cavalry in the gorge. Qian Feng was indeed an outstanding general. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. It seems that our Ba Huang province is now strong and well-equipped. Qian Feng also smiled. Thanks to Lin General's edict, Yunzhong province and Tianshu province have been transporting supplies to Ba Huang province. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to gather such a large team. Not only that, there are already 10 giant flying snakes in the insect nest. They're just waiting for Lin General's command. The whole army of the celestial race will fight to the death for the Qin Empire. All right, Qian Feng suddenly pointed to the distance and said, that hill is right in front of us. We'll be there soon. Shall we go down? The four of them swooped down. Sure enough, half of the hill in the distance had obviously collapsed. There were traces of battle on the periphery, and pieces of broken steel were scattered all over the ground. Lin Muyu looked carefully. The hill had collapsed at least 300 meters deep into the ground. There was actually a building complex in such a deep place. How much manpower was needed to build such a building? Perhaps, it had long surpassed the difficulty of building a pyramid. However, the manpower and material resources of the Broken Cauldron realm were obviously ordinary. How could they build such a building that was so ingenious? Greetings, Marshal. A group of high-level demon guards knelt down one after another. Qian Feng walked in front and said, Her Highness the Empress, Lin General, and Princess Xi are all here. Lead the way. They want to see this unknown and mysterious domain. The demons had just built a wooden corridor, but it was very unstable. However, it was still there. Lin Muyu and the others didn't intend to use any corridor. Instead, they leaped and flew in the air, slowly descending. In the depths of the ground, faint rays of light appeared. It was the torches in the hands of the demons. Lin Muyu raised her hand and took out her 7 luminaries' celestial gourd. The light of dawn burst out, instantly illuminating the entire huge cave. At this moment, everyone could see that it wasn't a cave, but a completely different world. At a depth of 300 meters, the ground was filled with densely packed integrated circuit boards. In addition, there were human-shaped steel ants that looked like ants. However, they were all lying on the ground in piles. There were at least tens of thousands of them. Qin Yin had a doubtful look on her face. Qian Feng cupped his fists and smiled. There's nothing we can do. When we first entered the cave, these steel ants actually moved and even attacked our army. Fortunately, I mobilized 20,000 armor demons and annihilated them all. Lin Muyu frowned. Qian Feng didn't know that these were actually robots, just like worker ants. This unique world was dug and built by these worker ants. This place was more like a huge machine workshop. Judging from the aura, there wasn't a trace of human presence. It should be a world of machines. Everyone be careful. Lin Muyu pulled out the Xianyuan sword and said, there may be unpredictable dangers. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi frowned slightly. Although they didn't know what happened, Lin Muyu must have her reasons for being so nervous. Under the guidance of several high-level demons, everyone walked along this high-tech building complex for nearly 10 minutes. Qianfeng said, if we go any further, we'll reach that big guy. Big guy? Lin Muyu was stunned. Yes, a big guy made of a whole piece of steel building, but we don't know what it is. However, I've issued an order to set that place as a forbidden area. No one is allowed to enter. Let's go and have a look. Lin Muyu's heart moved. Further ahead, there was a huge alloy door, but it had been split open, and the crack had been melted. Needless to say, it must be Qianfeng's masterpiece. This kind of alloy was very strong, but it couldn't withstand a fierce blow from a god. After entering the door, there was a huge operating space. When Lin Muyu stepped in, a very stiff computer-synthesized voice came. Shutdown system. Chapter 951. What's that sound? Qin Yin immediately summoned her golden wings and slowly opened her flaming eyes. She was already in combat mode. Tang Xiaoxi also opened her beautiful eyes wide nervously, and 9 flaming tails appeared behind her. Don't be nervous. Lin Muyu walked to the center of the control room and looked around carefully. Everything seemed so empty and clean. Probably no one had been here before. Therefore, there was not a single chair or table in the entire control room. It was very strange. Everyone be quiet. Lin Muyu raised his Xianyuan sword. He could only take a gamble. He said softly, restart system. With a click, all the lights in the control room lit up, and the room was suddenly brightly lit. The black hole in the northernmost part of the control room suddenly flashed with a rebooting image. Less than 3 seconds after the rebooting, a language selection screen appeared, and one of them was Chinese. Lin Muyu's heart thumped violently. This place was like a miracle and a huge mystery. What exactly was it? Who sent this huge and advanced artificial intelligence to the Shattered Cauldron realm? Chinese. Lin Muyu said softly. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Qianfeng were confused. They had no idea what Lin Muyu was talking about, let alone what he meant. They only saw the strange light screen flickering in front of them. Soon, it transformed into the appearance of an elf girl. She was very beautiful, and a pair of transparent dragonfly wings were gently flapping behind her. She looked at Lin Muyu and said in the computer-synthesized voice, please place your right hand on the identification panel to confirm the user's identity. Lin Muyu was stunned. The bright floor tiles in front of them suddenly separated, and a machine rose quickly. There was a screen on top of it, and it was no different from the fingerprint recognition machine. Lin Muyu was a little excited, and his heart was beating very fast. He gently placed his palm on the identification panel. Immediately, the screen in front of him quickly changed the fingerprint and palm texture data, and at the same time, it analyzed his DNA structure and so on. Confirmation complete, 9,999% match. The computer-synthesized voice continued to prompt. User identity confirmed. Lin Ji, Shanghai, China. Conquer ID, Lin Muyu, World Top Player Ranking. Number 1, Citizen ID, 3101041990071353332, User Clearance, S-Class. Do you wish to immediately summon the special system you are bound to? Y and N appeared on the big screen. Lin Muyu gently touched Y, and the system suddenly became blurry. Then a familiar figure appeared. It was still a system elf, but it had taken the form of the female elf officer, Lulu. At the same time, Lulu seemed to have woken up from a deep sleep. She opened her eyes and saw Lin Muyu. She could not help but cry out in joy, it's Big Brother. Lu, you didn't die? Lin Muyu was also surprised. Lulu immediately teared up. I thought Big Brother didn't want me anymore, so I slept for a long time. Look at the situation now. Why did the mainframe suddenly let me out? Don't ask me first. Let me ask you first, Lin Muyu said. Lulu nodded obediently, then blinked her eyes and said, ask whatever you want, big brother. Lulu will tell you everything I know. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Qian Feng, and the rest were dumbfounded. They did not know what to say at all. Everything before their eyes was beyond their understanding, and they could not understand it at all. However, seeing how excited Lin Muyu was, they did not disturb him. They would let him figure it out first. Lin Muyu said, Lulu, tell me first. Where are we now? Broken Silence Hall. Lulu said, this is the Lord Celestial Emperor's bedroom, and also the heart of the entire Celestial Emperor system. Celestial Emperor? Lin Muyu was confused. Tell me, what's the Celestial Emperor, and what's going on? Celestial Emperor seems to be a product of Earth, so why is he in the Shattered Cauldron realm? Lulu said, Celestial Emperor is an intelligent exploration system jointly developed by China, the United States, and Russia in 1983. It was secretly launched by China's expedition rocket and sent to distant galaxies to explore the mysteries of life. Ouyang Luofeng, who participated in the development of the Celestial Emperor system, was known as the father of Celestial Emperor because he gave Celestial Emperor the ability to grow on his own. Coincidentally, Celestial Emperor's system program package was sucked into a wormhole while flying in space. At that time, there was a battle between gods in the wormhole, and Celestial Emperor was involuntarily sucked into the reincarnation space and sent back to 124 years ago. Therefore, Celestial Emperor grew on his own for over 100 years and possessed unimaginable technological abilities. However, he was still restricted by the laws set by Ouyang Luofeng back then. He couldn't harm the innocent and couldn't invade other planets. Therefore, although Celestial Emperor was very advanced, he only played the role of a scout. Later on, Celestial Emperor's program package fell in the Shattered Cauldron realm 63 years ago and settled down in the Tongtian Gorge. However, he also collected the data of countless lives in the Shattered Cauldron realm and other galaxies. 17 years ago, he returned the data to Earth. The people on Earth used this data and technology to create the epic-making full simulation game, Conquer. It was also because of this that your spiritual consciousness was chosen and transmitted to the Shattered Cauldron realm through consciousness transmission. Lin Muyu's hair stood on end. He knew that things weren't as simple as they seemed, but he didn't expect it to be this complicated. Lulu, why didn't you tell me about these things before? Lin Muyu asked. Lulu lowered her head awkwardly and rubbed her hands together. Big Brother didn't have enough authority to know about these things before, so the Celestial the Arch ordered me not to say these things. Then why can you say it now? Lulu doesn't know either. Maybe it's because Big Brother is strong enough. Oh, Lin Muyu pondered for a moment before asking again. So, those skills in Conquer, Star Arts, Fallen Star Steps, Imbibing / and so on, are all real martial arts. Lulu nodded and said, the Celestial the Arch created about 20 billion scout bees and sent them to various galaxies to explore new worlds. That's why he obtained a lot of data. However, the main settings and data of Conquer are based on Shattered Cauldron Realm because that world is the most fascinating. Does Earth have any new orders for the Celestial the Arch? Lin Muyu suddenly thought of some bad things. If Earth could control the Celestial the Arch, wouldn't that be terrible? Shattered Cauldron Realm would soon be in chaos. Lulu said, there won't be any more orders. The Celestial the Arch receives orders through his life code, but Ouyang Luofeng passed away many years ago due to illness. Therefore, Conquer is the Celestial Thearcha's last message to Earth. Lin Muyu felt a headache coming on. What plans does the Celestial the Arch have for the future? Lulu, are you part of the Celestial the Arch? Lulu smiled. I am 1/10 of the Celestial Thearcha's program. However, Big Brother, you are the only person with S-level authority in the Celestial the Arch system, so you are the controller of the Celestial the Arch. If you wish for Lulu to be the Celestial the Arch, then Lulu is. If you wish for it not to be, then Lulu is not. As for plans, the Celestial the Arch will continue to live and continue to collect data in the universe. However, the Celestial the Arch will not expand, and the worker ants he produces will not have any attack power. Lin Muyu frowned and said, "So, even if I order the Celestial the Arch to produce weapons and equipment for me, it won't work." "Yes, big brother." Lulu chuckled and said, "The rule that Ouyang Luofeng gave the Celestial the Arch is the highest order. The Celestial the Arch will never produce weapons and will never participate in wars. Even if he is attacked, the Celestial the Arch will not fight back. At most, he will escape." How pitiful. He can't fight back. Qin Yin also understood some things. She pursed her red lips and felt indignant for the Celestial the Arch. Tang Xiaoxi also said, "Yes, no wonder such a weak army like the Armor Demon Army can flatten this place." Qian Feng touched his nose. "Princess Shi, actually, the Armor Demon Army is not weak. I have been training them in battle techniques all these years. These idiots are already very powerful," Lin Muyu continued to say. "Then Lulu, what can the Celestial the Arch do for me? Can he provide me with the power of technology?" "No, the Celestial the Arch cannot reveal anything related to war." "Then what about martial arts techniques?" "That's possible." Lulu smiled slightly. Lin Muyu was overjoyed and said, "Then, give me all the martial arts techniques above S rank." "Oh yes, write them into scrolls for me. How long will it take to complete?" "Scrolls?" Lulu blinked and said with a smile, "The Celestial Thearka's internal factory is very powerful. Big brother, wait for 10 minutes. It will be done immediately." But 10 minutes was not a long time, but Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the others could feel the buzzing sound of machines coming from underground. So there was a factory underground. The Celestial the Arch was simply omnipotent. Not long after, a passage opened at the side of the control room. They saw worker ants dragging metal boxes with wheels over. Sure enough, the martial arts techniques in the boxes had already been printed. They did not know what technology could be used to complete such a big process so quickly. There were a total of 5 boxes, and each box had at least 20 martial arts techniques. There were more than 100 martial arts techniques in total. The smell of ink filled the air. Among them, the first was the star art, followed by the god-consuming slash, ice crystal shield, raging flame sword technique, teleportation art, and other martial arts techniques. For a moment, the two beauties, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, were dumbfounded. It was simply too subversive. So many powerful martial arts techniques had appeared all of a sudden. Even Lin Muyu's star art was among them. Qian Feng's mouth also twitched. "Oh my god," Lin Muyu said cheerfully, "hurry up, you 3 take your pick. After you are done, we will bring the rest back to Lanyan City. After carefully selecting, we will rebuild the Holy Temple and rebuild the Holy Relic Temple of the Empire." Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were full of excitement. She nodded vigorously, "Yes. This way, at least in terms of martial arts, our great Qin will no longer be inferior to the Celestial Pole mainland." Lin Muyu had no interest in these martial arts techniques. She was biting off more than she could chew. Star art, 7 luminaries art, and formless elephant art were enough for her to use for a lifetime. Moreover, there was no formless elephant art among these martial arts techniques. It seemed that the Celestial the Arch system's investigation had not penetrated into the realm beyond heavens. It was probably a new domain. The two beauties, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, were inspecting the martial arts techniques excitedly. They knelt on the ground together, graceful and beautiful. Lin Muyu also sat next to Qin Yin, then said to the female elf official, "Lulu, can you provide me with the technology of the steam engine?" "Steam engine?" Lulu narrowed her beautiful eyes. "Brother, why don't you want the technology of the gasoline engine? You have to know that there is oil thousands of meters underground. Once the oil is extracted, you can produce real tanks. As long as I give you enough technology, you can even produce electronic equipment. I have a lot of manufacturing technology about the F-22 and Su-37 here. The Celestial the Arch stole it from the defense network on Earth. In addition, I also have the technology to produce aircraft carriers. Brother, if you produce 10 aircraft carriers equipped with the Oracle defense system and place them in the East China Sea, will there be a fly that can fly over the celestial pole mainland? Lin Muyu was excited to death. Okay, quickly give me these technologies. However, Lulu crossed her arms in front of her chest and hugged her exquisite twin peaks. She said angrily, I knew you were a war maniac. Humph, I won't give you these technologies. If you break through the laws, the Celestial Thearcha's self-destruction program will automatically be triggered. Lin Muyu instantly became listless. A million curses ran through her heart. Even the system elf knew how to tease her master. Chapter 952. Then what else can you offer me other than martial arts? Lin Muyu asked. Brother, didn't you want the technology of the steam engine? I can give it to you now. In addition, I can also give you the technology of the steam car, as long as you want it. Lulu flew in the air, her transparent wings flapping rapidly. Lin Muyu said, I'm afraid that's not enough. The casting technology of the Shattered Cauldron realm is not enough to build the steam engine. You still need to give me the advanced casting technology and the basic industrial knowledge. Just write them into words and give them to me as blueprints. But Lulu nodded. Qin Yin asked in confusion, Brother Yu, what is the steam engine? It's a kind of energy source, although it's a bit crude. Then, what's the use of the steam engine you mentioned? Tang Xiaoxi blinked and asked again, I mean, what's the use of it for the Empire's war? Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, if we can build steam trucks, our soldiers and provisions will be able to travel thousands of kilometers in a day. They won't need to ride horses to travel thousands of kilometers in a day. It will only take them less than 3 days to travel from Lanyan City to Winterfrost City. Of course, this is only the most ideal situation. Our roads are not completely repaired yet. So it's not weapons. Qin Yin was slightly disappointed. If it's just to transport supplies and troops, I'm afraid it won't be able to improve our combat ability by a large margin. It can only improve our mobility in a small area. Also, the biggest problem we're facing right now is the lack of money and gold to build warships and heavy cannons. Yes, I know that too. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and said, not only that, we're also short of food. Food is always a problem in every campaign, especially when it's a long and arduous expedition. Food is always the biggest problem. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips and said, the potatoes from the Forest of Infinity have become the biggest military ration. Dried potatoes are easy to store and can be soaked in hot water during the march. It's just that potatoes can't be planted all year round. We can only plant them 2 or 3 times a year. Lin Muyu frowned. Lulu flapped her wings and said with a smile, Brother, you can create a thermostatic chamber. It shouldn't be a problem to create a thermostatic chamber in this world, right? Thermostatic chamber? Yes. Lulu said, the Celestial Ruler's factory may not have a lot of other things, but there is a lot of plastic. As long as we find a place with abundant sunlight and water, we can send worker ants to build a thermostatic greenhouse, and we can grow the potatoes you mentioned all year round. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. Lulu, didn't you say that the Celestial the Arch would not participate in any form of war? But growing food is only what farmers do, it has nothing to do with the war. Besides, the Sky Sovereign has the hidden consciousness of saving lives and saving people. As long as Big Brother gives me a piece of land, the worker ants produced by the Sky Sovereign will quickly grow a large area of potatoes to provide food for Big Brother. This is not considered interfering in the war, is it? That's great, that's great. Lin Muyu was ecstatic. Qianfeng coughed and said, Lin General, behind this mountain range is a land bordered by a forest and a plain. It's about 100 miles of fertile land, but our divine race is not good at farming, so we haven't cultivated it. If it's really as this mysterious fairy said, then it's feasible. This subordinate can send troops to protect this place and divide this land into a potato plantation. Yes, that's settled. Lulu pointed to Qianfeng and said, Lulu, the matter of planting potatoes will be handed over to Marshal Qianfeng. Lulu seemed a little frightened. But big brother, this uncle is very fierce. He even brought a lot of big gray dogs to destroy some of the worker ants. Those aren't big gray dogs, those are the armored demon army of the divine race. Qianfeng explained with a pale face. Lulu didn't listen to Qianfeng's explanation and continued. There are about 200,000 worker ants under the celestial factory. According to their work efficiency, they should be able to plant the first batch of potatoes in 20 days. In addition, Lulu has a big gift for Big Brother. What big gift? Lulu bowed mysteriously and actually performed a Qin Empire's ladylike etiquette. Then she pointed to the black screen behind her. Suddenly, the light of stars appeared, and soon, a huge map appeared on the screen. It was the map of Broken Cauldron World. At the same time, small gold, purple, and white dots appeared on the map. In addition, there were also pieces of fiery red territories that looked like silk. This is the border of the map. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's little mouths were wide open. Lin Muyu was stunned and said, "What are these?" Lulu giggled and said, "These are the results of Celestial Ruler's investigation of Broken Cauldron World for so many years. Big brother, look, the gold icon represents a huge underground gold mine, the purple icon represents a purple crystal mine, and the silver icon represents a white diamond mine. As for the red icon, that is what Big Brother wants the most. Magic crystal mine." It can't be true. Qin Yin couldn't help but open her flaming eyes. A pair of goddess-like beautiful eyes were filled with joy and hope. If these were all true, then it was simply an unimaginable wealth. Lulu smiled and said, "Sister Qin Yin, these are naturally true. You are Big Brother's girlfriend, why would I lie to you?" Qin Yin's face turned red and said, "How do you even know this?" Lulu puffed up her small chest and said proudly, "Since Big Brother's S-rank identity allows me to integrate with Celestial Ruler's functions, then I can be said to know everything about this land." Lin Muyu was so excited that she was about to suffocate. She said, "Lulu, print this map according to the division of the province and give it to me. It must be specific and detailed, understand?" "Yes, Big Brother." Very soon, the map was printed out, and Lin Muyu stored it away like a precious treasure. Lulu smiled and asked, "Big Brother, I also have the distribution of underground oil and rare metal mines. Do you need them?" "I don't need them for the time being. Rare metals are temporarily useless." "Yes, that's true. Most of those rare metals are used for aerospace. With Broken Cauldron World's technology, they probably won't be used for another 100 years. Lulu, you are now the spokesperson of Celestial Ruler. Who do you think is stronger, Broken Cauldron World or Earth?" "In terms of technology, Earth is naturally stronger, but in terms of strength, I'm afraid Broken Cauldron World is stronger. After all, spiritual energy is scarce on Earth, and there are very few cultivators. While focusing on developing technology, people have forgotten to train and explore their bodies and potential. Once they break through to the divine realm, all technology is equivalent to nothingness." "Yes, that's right." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "The hard fist is the hard truth." "In that case, Big Brother, can Lulu send the worker ants to open up the wasteland and prepare to plant potatoes? By the way, Lulu only collected a small number of potatoes, and I need more germs. I need Big Brother to provide them to me." "No problem." Lin Muyu stood up and said, "Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, we can't leave Lanyan City for too long. Since the matter here has been solved for the time being, let's return to Lanyan City immediately and start rebuilding the sacred martial palace and sending back the potato germs. The sooner, the better. No one knows when the next war will come. In addition, I have put away the distribution maps of the gold, white diamond, purple crystal, and magic crystal mines. Later, I will separately order Su Jiantao, Tang Zhen, Qin Xiaoli, Qin Yong, Zhen Yifan, and other garrison generals to dig. We must firmly grasp these mineral veins in our hands. We can't let the Congress have a share of this, or else we will be even more passive in the future." "Yes, let's go." Qin Yin nodded and then turned to Qianfeng and said, "Qianfeng, listen to the announcement." Qianfeng immediately knelt on one knee and said, "Your subject is here." I officially confer you the highest governor of Bahuang province, with the rank of general of the Qin Empire. You will be in charge of the administrative and military affairs in the province. In case of emergency, you can act first and report later. In addition, you must discuss everything with Lulu about the potato plantation. Don't use force anymore. As long as Lulu requests it, you will be granted. Yes, thank you for your gift, Your Highness. Qianfeng tried hard to hide his excitement. After all, the era of the three kings had passed, and now it was the era of the female empress. The old officials conferred by the three kings were no longer effective, and Qin Yin's words were a new edict, which was equivalent to a reinvention. Lin Muyu patted Qianfeng's shoulder and smiled knowingly. There was no need to talk too much between heroes. With Qianfeng in the eastern region of the empire, Lin Muyu could rest assured. With Lin Muyu in the capital, Qianfeng could also rest assured that the status of the demon race in the empire would not be trampled. The next afternoon, the three of them arrived at Lanyan City. The first thing was to collect potatoes. They used a total of 27 space bags and filled them to the brim. Tang Xiaoxi brought Terralin, Lake, and the other God State experts to Tongtian Gorge. Qin Yin had to stay in Zetian Palace Hall to manage the situation, and Lin Muyu had to implement the new military strategy of the empire in the Divine Temple. This was extremely important for the Shattered Cauldron realm. Only by improving and becoming stronger could the Shattered Cauldron realm contend with the powerful celestial pole continent. On the square of the Divine Temple, more than 1,000 Divine Temple employees waited solemnly. When Lin Muyu and Qin Yan walked up the steps of the Divine Temple together, everyone knelt on one knee. Greetings, Lin General. Greetings, Great Deacon. In the eyes of the martial artists of the empire, Lin Muyu was the true martial god. Her position in the hearts of the people of the Divine Temple was probably much higher than that of Qin Yan, the Great Deacon of the Divine Temple. After all, Lin Muyu was also the Great Deacon of the Divine Temple in the past, and was once the pride of the Divine Temple. Dispense with the formalities. Rise. Lin Muyu raised both his hands and looked at everyone with a humble expression. He said with a smile, "Originally, I shouldn't have interfered with the affairs of the Divine Temple. However, the situation was urgent, so I overstepped my boundaries. I hope that Great Deacon doesn't blame me." Qin Yan could not help but laugh. "What are you saying, big brother? The Divine Temple is your home to begin with." Lin Muyu nodded. Indeed, he had started off as a sparring partner in the Divine Temple of Lanyan City and walked step by step to where he was today. This place was indeed like his other home. Chapter 953. Make it short. Lin Muyu cleared her throat and said, "This time, I came to the Sacred Palace to restore the order in the Sacred Palace and rebuild the Sacred Martial Palace in the eyes of the warriors of the Qin Empire. This is also the intention of Her Highness Yin. This time, I brought back a total of 114 martial arts manuals. Most of them are martial arts manuals that have never appeared on the continent. They are divided into 3 levels." The faces of the group of martial artists were filled with excitement when they heard this. Martial secrets and battle skills had always been scarce. Most families were unwilling to pass on their martial skills to outsiders. This was also human nature. Because of this, a very ordinary martial secret could be sold for several thousand gold coins on the market. This was enough to show how rare martial secrets were. Lin Muyu was very satisfied with everyone's performance. He continued, "There are a total of 4 first-class martial arts, namely, the Martial God Arts, the Great Void Swordsmanship, the Great Karmic Fire Technique, and the Purple Thunder Fist. However, the essence of these martial arts is extremely difficult to comprehend, so only the Grand Deacon, Deacons, Gold Star Instructors, and sparring partners are qualified to practice them. There are a total of 11 first-class martial arts, namely, the Bone-Crushing Palm, the Burning Wind Technique, the Fierce Gale Sword Technique, the Thundercliff Technique, and the Void Palm Technique. Only Silver Star instructors and sparring partners are qualified to practice them. There are a total of 99 first-class martial arts, namely, the Heart-Piercing Finger, the Thunderblade Technique, and the hurricane spear technique. Anyone in the sanctum can practice these third-class martial arts. Everyone's emotions surged, and they all knelt down one after another, shouting, "Long live Lin General! Long live the Empress!" Lin Muyu smiled faintly and handed the 4 first-tier martial arts manuals to Qin Yen. Yen, don't copy these 4 manuals. Keep them in the secret room of the Sacred Hall. Send more experts to protect them. Don't let these martial arts spread to the celestial pole continent. Yes, big brother, please rest assured. Qin Yen smiled cheerfully. Lin Muyu nodded. Then I'll leave the matter of rebuilding the sacred martial palace to you. I still have something to discuss with Brother Feng. Take care, big brother. At night, in the Imperial Army camp. When Lin Muyu led Wei Chou, Sidu-sen, and the others into the camp, Feng Jixing had already come out to greet them. With a red face, he said, There must be something good this time. I heard that you went to the Tongtian Gorge and saw something strange. You must have gained something, right? Yes, let's talk about it after we enter the tent. All right. Entering the tent, under the light of an oil lamp, Lin Muyu spread out a map on the table. It was a map of Lingbei province, and there were many small marks on it. This is... Feng Jixing was stunned. Lin Muyu said, the gold ones are gold ores, they can help us smelt and forge more Jinxin coins. The purple ones are amethyst ores, the silver ones are white diamond ores, and the red ones are magic crystal ores. Really? Yes. How did you get these positions? Feng Jixing practically threw himself into the map, his face full of happiness. I'm rich. Lin Muyu was speechless. It's a long story, I won't go into it. Anyway, it's absolutely accurate. Big Brother Feng, I'm here to tell you that our Longdan army camp and the Imperial Army can mine these ores separately. The nearest gold and magic crystal ores to Lanyan City are less than 200 li away. Since there's no war now, we should make use of this time to make a fortune. Feng Jixing nodded repeatedly. Lin Muyu pointed at the map and said, this place is close to the dragon-seeking forest. The gold ores here are very rich, enough to forge 1 billion Jinxin coins. With this 1 billion Jinxin coins, we can build an imperial navy. The remaining money can also be used to forge magic crystal cannons and god-slaying cannons. Okay. Feng Jixing nodded repeatedly. But the imperial treasury is empty. Even if we have Jinxin coins, we have nowhere to spend them. You're just wasting your time, aren't you? Why is there nowhere to spend them? Lin Muyu smiled. The rich families in Lanyan City have stockpiled so many resources, food and manpower. But they're greedy. We'll use these Jinxin coins to exchange for their manpower and resources. We'll make them misers while we use these resources to defend the empire against powerful enemies and even open up new lands. Big Brother Feng, where did you learn economics? Feng Jixing slammed his palm on the table. Where did I get the chance to learn economics? In any case, I'll leave this gold mine to you. The sooner the better. Xiao Yin will also grant you the right to forge Jinxin coins. As for me, I'll bring the Longdan army camp to mine this magic crystal mine. It's located 50 li deep in the dragon-seeking forest. Remember, Big Brother Feng, I'll take care of the money. Alright. Then, we'll only be left with the steam engine. Late at night, the 2 commanders of the Imperial Army and the Longdan army camp arrived at the Department of Weapons. Under the lamp, Qin Xiling stared at the blueprint of the steam engine for a long time without saying a word. He did not seem to understand it at all. On the other hand, Old Roger, a mechanic from the land of exile, smiled and said, the Marshal actually has the blueprint of the steam engine. It's really not simple. Qin Xiling smiled. Teacher Roger, you know about this? It's a compulsory course for mechanics. Old Roger shook his head. But I've studied it. The Shattered Cauldron realm doesn't have the technology to refine oil. So, if we're going to forge the steam engine, we can only use coal. There are coal mines. All the major chambers of commerce in Lanyan City sell coal, Feng Jixing said. That's easy. Old Roger said confidently. Since the Marshal and His Highness think highly of this old bag of bones, then I'll help Lord Qin Xiling complete the steam engine. However, I don't know if the marshal wants to build a steam car or a steam train. Building a car in 3 months and building a railway in a year? Is that possible? Lin Muyu asked. Old Roger muttered. I'm afraid that will require a lot of money. I heard from the Ministry of Revenue that the National Treasury is empty. There's no money to build a railway. I'll take care of the money. You just need to supervise the construction. Yes, I understand. Please rest assured, Marshal. All right. Lin Muyu didn't sleep for the entire night. His eyes were slightly red. He only returned to Zetian Palace when the sky was about to brighten. The side palace he lived in was silent. But the moment he opened the door, he saw Qin Yin's figure. She was fanning the fire by the stove. The iron pot on the stove was already emitting green smoke and a faint fragrance. Qin Yin's eyes widened. When she saw Lin Muyu return, she blushed. Brother Yu, you're back? Her face was covered in dust, and there were some black streaks on her beautiful face. The Empress, who had been pampered since she was young, had never cooked anything. It was really hard on her. Xiao Yin, you didn't sleep? Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Yin smiled. I slept, but I woke up early. When I saw that you weren't around, I knew that you must have been busy all night. So, I cooked some flour soup. It's good for people who stay up late. You can drink it in a while. If I remember correctly, there's a court meeting today. Well, I'll go over after you finish the soup. Ah. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. What are you laughing at? Qin Yin wiped her face and asked worriedly, Don't tell me that I look ugly now. No, it's just that I feel that Xiao Yin is becoming more and more like a daughter-in-law. You don't have the majestic demeanor of an empress anymore. Qin Yin burst into laughter. She stepped forward and held his hand. When my father was alive, he said that I would get married sooner or later. I have to learn to take care of my husband and learn to be filial to my elders. Oh, Brother Yu, you also said that you would bring me back to meet your father one day. So, Xiao Yin should learn to be virtuous first. I have to prepare for a rainy day. Okay. Lin Muyu smiled happily. She sat on the carpet and hugged Qin Yin in her arms. Immediately, she was filled with fragrance. The feeling of hugging a beautiful woman was indeed wonderful. It was worth it no matter how hard she suffered. In this life, a man might be very dazzling. He might be surrounded by beautiful women. However, if the woman in his arms wasn't the woman he loved the most, then no matter how successful he was, he would still be a failure in his heart. This was something that many people couldn't see through. At this moment, a beeping sound suddenly came from the Qiankuan bag. Lin Muyu hurriedly took out a disc-shaped instrument from the Qiankuan bag and placed it on the ground. She said, Lulu, come out. Buzz. 3-dimensional projection technology. Lulu's image appeared in front of Lin Muyu. She smiled and said, Brother, I'm here to report the results. I've already cultivated nearly 50 square kilometers of fertile farmland. Here, I'll show you. The image changed. It was already the grid-shaped farmland in the Tongtian Gorge. The farmland was covered with plastic greenhouses. It was a magnificent sight. Lin Muyu was stunned. So fast? Of course. You definitely haven't seen the speed at which the worker ants dig the ground. It's like lightning. Is Xiaoxi here yet? Yes, we've just arrived, so we'll start planting potatoes soon. Marshal Qianfeng said that the water source will be diverted to the fields within 3 days, across 100 miles. That's great. Lin Muyu clapped her hands. Thank you for your hard work, Lulu. It's not hard on me. It's you, brother, who looks terrible. Lulu had a worried look on her face. She looked at Qin Yin, who was beside Lin Muyu, and said, Big brother, you have to control yourself. Although your body is the body of a god, if you use too much energy, you will still waste your essence. Lulu doesn't want to see Big Brother as thin as a stick. Ahem, what are you talking about? Lin Muyu was so embarrassed that she wanted to die. Qin Yin also understood. Her little face turned red, but she didn't know how to explain. She couldn't just tell Lulu that they hadn't started, could she? The soup is ready. I'll go get it. She hurriedly looked for an opportunity to escape. Lin Muyu was also speechless. Then that's it. Contact me if there's anything, Lul. Goodbye, brother. The light disappeared in a flash. This communication device was quite useful. Lin Muyu could even use Lulu's Celestial the Arch system to directly contact Qian Feng, Qin Yong, and the others who were thousands of miles away. In a sense, she already had a huge advantage. Chapter 954. On the 7th of November, heavy snowflakes fluttered in the air above the forest of no return. The ground seemed to be covered with a layer of silver robe, and it was so cold that it made people shiver. However, from the snowy land west of the forest of no return, the sound of horns, war drums, and the sound of horse hooves could be heard. The two armies had officially begun their decisive battle here. The Celestial Empire had endured for nearly half a year, and now they had finally made their move against their strongest opponent. The armies collided with each other wave after wave. The roars of the dragons and the impact energy unleashed by the gods constantly swept up the snow on the ground. Balls of raging flames fell from the sky, and it was so hard to distinguish them from each other. The war had entered a white-hot stage as soon as it broke out. Qin Yu had sent out the strongest army of the Celestial Empire, which was also the strongest army of the Tianji Empire, the Yanji Army, which was personally commanded by the Saint Martial God, Zhang Cheng. Amidst the heavy snowfall, an old man carrying a long blade stood in midair with his long beard swaying slightly. The raging flames were spinning rapidly under his feet, and he was constantly waving his long blade, releasing several hundreds of meters of cold blade energy into the crowd. This man was none other than the commander-in-chief of the Tianji Empire, Shang Qian's maternal grandfather, Zhang Cheng. Although Zhang Cheng was old, he was incomparably brave and fierce. He sat proudly in the middle of the army, causing the cavalry of the Celestial Empire to attack more than 10 times in a row, but they did not achieve much. Instead, they had suffered heavy losses. 3 armies, listen to my command, hold your positions. You are the most elite soldiers of the Tianji Empire, and guarding the country is our natural mission. Killing the enemy while bathed in blood is our supreme glory. If you don't move, you will live, and if you waver, you will die. Kill them all. Zhang Cheng's voice reverberated in the air like a huge bell, and although the soldiers of the Flame Ji army had only heard Zhang Cheng's voice, but they were greatly encouraged. Each and every one of their eyes were blood red, and they brandished their weapons and fought with their opponents. Cavalry battalion, spear battalion, infantry shield battalion, archer battalion, all the battalions moved forward, but they were all crushed by the wheels of war, disappearing one by one. War was like this, killing was the price, and victory was the ultimate goal. They fought from dawn to noon, but the snow was getting heavier and heavier. Both sides were exhausted, but the Heavenly Jew Empire, with the participation of nearly 300 Dragon Knights, still had a slight advantage, while the Yanji Corps, on the other hand, was showing signs of fatigue. The catapults, the dragon-hunting crossbows, and the torch stones were almost used up. The positional battle was decided by the formation and combat power. It was clear that the Yanji Corps' 250,000 soldiers were gradually becoming isolated under the encirclement of the enemy's 500,000 soldiers. On the snowy ground, a blood-soaked warhorse galloped over. The general on the horse had one of his arms chopped off and his face was covered in blood. With his other hand holding onto the reins, he shouted to the sky, "Great General, something bad has happened." "What's wrong?" Zhang Cheng asked coldly. "Demon spirits. The demon spirit clan has appeared. They are attacking the left army from the west side of the Forest of No Return. There are tens of thousands of demon spirits, including demon kings and demon venerables. It is said that even the demon emperor Nuslik has come. Our brothers are almost unable to hold on any longer. Everyone is exhausted. If the battle continues, it will get out of hand." Zhang Cheng frowned. "The Lanji army is currently on the way to reinforce us. Once we give up the position here, it would be equivalent to handing over the eastern door of the Tianji Empire to the enemy. That brat Qin Yu will use all his tricks and schemes. He will enter the plains and start fighting with us on the vast land. At that time, the Tianji Empire will have even less chance of winning. This subordinate also knows this, but Great General, we have already lost tens of thousands of soldiers. If we continue to fight like this, I am afraid that all the brothers of the Yanji army will die here. Why would the Demon Emperor Nuslik collude with the dogs of the Celestial Empire? Zhang Cheng was full of annoyance and asked, General Lu, isn't Lord Zai leading the Battle Angel army and the reinforcements here? When will they arrive? Lord Zai's army is resting in Lingyuan County the day before yesterday. Lingyuan County is 300 miles away from here. Even with the cavalry, it will take 3 days. It seems that the Celestial Empire wants to take down our position in one go. We can't wait for that time. Zhang Cheng sighed. Forget it. To think that the Yanji army would have such a day. To think that I, Zhang Cheng, was praised as an invincible general by the people of the Celestial Empire. Today, I have fallen into such a situation. I have let down the Celestial Empire. I have let down the Saint Emperor. General Lu, give the order to retreat. Order the rear army, left army and right army to retreat slowly. I will lead the middle army to bring up the rear. The general surnamed Lu hesitated for a moment, then cupped his hands and said, Yes, this subordinate obeys. The drums of retreat sounded hurriedly. Under the curtain of snow, the soldiers of the Yanji army revealed a smile as if they had been pardoned. The army retreated one after another, leaving behind nearly 60,000 middle army to resist the army of the Celestial Empire. But Qin Yu obviously did not want to give the opponent any chance to breathe. The dragon riders in the sky danced wildly, the cavalry on the ground madly rushed forward. In addition to the demon spirit army on the other side, the middle army of the Yanji army was surrounded in the blink of an eye. This battle lasted for 1 day and 1 night. In the early morning of the next day, the snow was still falling. The entire snowfield had been dyed red, but the red snow was quickly covered by new snow. The position of the middle army of the Yanji army was getting smaller and smaller. From the initial few miles, it became 1 mile, and then it became a few hundred meters, until there were less than 10,000 people surrounded by the enemy. Boom! Raging flames soared into the sky. It was Zhang Cheng who had raised his long blade and swept it horizontally. The hundreds of meters long raging flame blade Qi instantly turned a group of the cavalry of the Celestial Empire into ashes. The power of a god emperor should not be underestimated, let alone Zhang Cheng, who was a level 84 paradise god emperor. But after a day of fierce battle, Zhang Cheng's power was not as good as before. His face was rather pale, and the hand that was holding the long blade was trembling slightly. He was left with less than 30% of his divine power. If not for the protection of the divine wall, he would have been killed by the demon heart arrows used by the opponent's dragon riders. Protect the general. Kill. The remaining power of the defeated army was not enough. But very soon, there were only a few thousand of them left. They were facing hundreds of thousands of soldiers of the Celestial Empire. Under the great disparity in strength, it seemed that the Yanji army did not stand a chance. The crowd of cavalry slowly separated, and a man came out on a horse. He was dressed in a pure white robe that was whiter than snow. He looked rather handsome. He was the emperor of the Celestial Empire, Qin Yu. Beside him were Han Yuan and Liao Yang, who were in charge of protecting him. Old General Zhang Cheng. Chen Yu raised his head and looked at Zhang Cheng, who was standing proudly in the sky. He said, You are a senior, and also an elder of the Celestial Pole continent. The 3 empires of the continent are originally one, and we are also one family. Why must we fight to the point of not holding anything back? Junior Qin Yu, may I be so bold as to ask old General Zhang Cheng to put down your weapons and shake hands in peace? How do we shake hands in peace? Zhang Cheng's pair of turbid eyes shot out a ray of light. Very simple. Chen Yu spread his hands and said, Senior, put down your weapons and join the army of my Celestial Empire. Junior admires Senior's virtues and conduct, and is willing to worship you as the general of the Celestial Empire and confer the title of king. I wonder if old General is willing? Confer the title of king? Zhang Cheng's body trembled, and he laughed out loud. Qin Yu is indeed Qin Yu. You have such courage at such a young age. I have made countless contributions to the Tianji Empire, but I am only conferred the title of Marquis. In my Tianji Empire, only the descendants of the Northern Dark Royal family can be conferred the title of king. I didn't expect His Majesty Qin Yu to confer the title of king on me. This is really surprising. So, old general agrees? Qin Yu smiled in surprise. However, Zhang Cheng frowned and said coldly, "No, I refuse. Even if I have to fight to the last man, Zhang Cheng will never surrender. Besides, my Zhang clan, the Shang clan, and even the people of Tianji City all praise me for being loyal and courageous. If I surrender, how am I going to face my fellow countrymen and my family with my old face?" As he spoke, the long saber in Zhang Cheng's hand was instantly burned red by the divine power. He laughed out loud and said, "Let's fight. Even if I die, I won't kneel to you bastards." "You're simply too stubborn." Qin Yu frowned and said, "Continue to kill, leave no one alive." Han Yuan said, "Then what about Zhang Cheng? He is Tianji Empire's Mount Tai and Big Dipper. If we kill Zhang Cheng, I'm afraid that old fellow Sikong Ming won't be able to sit still." "I want him to be unable to sit still." Chen Yu lightly pulled out his sharp sword and said, "Kill. Lord Han Yuan, it's up to you now. Bring Zhang Cheng's head to me." "Understood." After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the remnants of the Yanji army disappeared from the snowy ground. Han Yuan descended from the sky with a bloody head in his hand. He threw it down and it rolled on the snowy ground. It was the head of the white-haired Zhang Cheng. As a god emperor, he would rather die in battle than to break the void and escape. This was what made Zhang Cheng respectable. Chen Yu squinted his eyes and said coldly, "Zhang Cheng, that old fool." Han Yuan took out a sparkling and translucent godhead and said, "This is Zhang Cheng's cast immortal godhead. Your Majesty, please accept it." "No need." Chen Yu shook his head. "Since Lord Han Yuan killed him, you can keep this cast immortal godhead for yourself." "But Zhang Cheng's death seems to make your Majesty unhappy?" Liao Yang seemed to have noticed something. Chen Yu frowned and said, "I just feel that it's a pity. A famous general like Zhang Cheng shouldn't have died in battle like this. Unfortunately, Tianji Empire doesn't have anyone capable. If there were a few more people like Zhang Cheng, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to step into Tianji Empire's territory no matter how many troops we have. Someone, bury Zhang Cheng here and build a martyr's mausoleum. Attack the county city in front of us and make it our resting place." "Yes, Your Majesty." 2 days later, the news spread to Tianji City. In the main hall, all the officials were shocked. Great General Zhang Cheng really died in battle? He's a god emperor. That's right. How could such an expert die in battle? I heard that the Celestial Empire used Han Yuan and other god state experts from Tianjua sect. No wonder. The empire is in danger. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.